Welcome to the court. I am its Jester. Now let's complete Rebecca's chapter. October 27th, Thursday. The brief lull the past 2 days has offered is nice while it lasted. Or as nice as it can get with worries of Isabella's whereabouts creeping up to me every now and then. She hasn't showed up after the last talk we had in the hallway, and the dinner I've bought had since been given to a different neighbor before it spoils. For a second I thought this girl was in the background was wearing a tail. It's actually like a bit of a tail on her backpack, because her backpack is some kind of cute animal mascot. But for a second there, I thought it looked like she was wearing the tail. I don't think that's all that uncommon. When I was in middle school, one of my classmates was always wearing a fox tail everywhere she went. By all means, this shouldn't be anything to lose sleep over. She's gone on work trips before, usually for a day or two. This might simply be one of those. I don't think this is one of those. Although it's often with a message saying exactly where. But it's the dour note she ended our last chat with that gnaws.
Like an ugly premonition.
Yeah, it's the ghost stuff. Rebecca, remember the ghost stuff? Yeah, that's what this is about. Rebecca fully thinks if she ignores the ghost, it'll go away, and that's not how this kind of game works. As expected, just as things start to settle and a steady rhythm finally worms its way back to my routine, Thursday morning brings further disturbance to the now calm waters. With little ceremony, though, still enough to ripple through everything. In retrospect, I really should have seen this coming. Luxburn is a small city, relatively speaking. Compared to, say, London or Glasgow, it's nothing but a tiny mass of land boasting a mere population of 68,000. But those numbers alone are nothing to scoff at when standing in a busy street. And if you pay close enough attention, faces taking the crosswalk or riding the subway will soon grow familiar. How unfortunate that out of that number, it has to be T.O. fucking Luke that I encounter more than once. Kick him in the dick again! Kick him in the dick again! Do it! Do it! Do it, do it, do it, do it!
Oh, you know, a few problems popping up here and there that the agents failed to tell us somehow.
You're gonna get kicked in the dick.
Nothing a few hired hands can't fix, of course.
Why are you here?
I would have preferred a place near the city and something that's new to save us all the trouble, but darling wife insisted.
She deserves better than you.
Who am I to say no?
Are you kidding me?
Rebecca, kick him. His smug head is the first thing I see upon turning into the hall, in spite of the small crowd of parents and students gathered at the corridor for the primary's career day. It's not that he stands out, he's pretty unremarkable at first glance, quite frankly. However, it's his countenance that draws people's eyes to him. The manner with he carries himself, with all the confidence in the world, his mere presence dwarfing everything around him. I'm willing to make a bet that he's also enjoying the attention it garners, especially the ones coming from the women.
What an ass.
A single glance at him, and I know immediately that one way or another, if we ever bump into each other again, my day will effectively be ruined in some capacity. He exudes that air. Yeah, his vibes are rancid. The sort that makes you want to run him over with a lorry and pass it off as an unfortunate accident. It's the trolley problem, okay? You can either leave the track alone and the train will peacefully go down one track, not hitting anyone, or you can pull the lever and it'll hit Luke. With him, it's either you want to punch him or you let yourself be charmed, and there's no in between. I'd gladly do the honor of the former myself, but alas, there are people around us. Now I'm stuck with having to face one of the two.
I shouldn't have volunteered.
At the time, helping out sounded like a good idea. I've had no classes left today after lunch. I could have opted to stay at the teacher's lounge and work on my lessons plans, but that means being left alone with our deputy head and his chatter. He's a good man, but Crivens, he can talk anyone's ear off. So the moment an opportunity arose, I jumped on it. It was a simple task to boot. Just deliver a whole box of materials and a few posters for the event, maybe stay around to assist if the time will allow it. I wasn't just expecting him to show up here. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. Had I known, I would have stayed and suffered through our deputy's impromptu speeches about his life crisis instead. Oh, what's going on with him? I want to know what his story is like. All of the main characters are dealing with the ghost and the hauntings and the supernatural, and there is some man working at a school having a life crisis, completely unrelated to the ghosts, but I want to know what it is. Did he blow his life savings on a car thinking it would make him feel young again? Don't do that. That's a bad idea. What's done is done. Going back is also out of the question. With how unexpectedly heavy the load I'm carrying is, I'd hate to lug this for a trip back just because my pride can't take another second interaction with the guy. He's insufferable, all right, but I've had my fair share of dealings with teens of more or less the same temperament, all considerably younger than him, and they listened. If he wants to be difficult like last time, so be it, but he can let his sorry English ass know I'm not standing down. Left with no other choice, I brace myself and suck in a breath, mustering every bit of patience I have as I step into the hall. My grip on the box tightens when I pull it closer to me and attempt to assume a low-key air as I amble towards the room. The box is not big enough to hide my face, even with the stuff piled on top, but if all else fails, I can just hit him with it. Still, a small prayer forms in my head. If there's even one listening out there, please grant me enough restraint. Better yet, I hope he doesn't notice me at all. That'll make my life easier. Seriously, how hard can it be? Well, look, Rebecca, he likes a woman that's not afraid to dominate him. He's gonna get rock hard at the sight of you, and then he's gonna be like a dick to try and impress you, and it's not gonna work, and then you're gonna hit him, and then he's gonna like it. Just like at the cafe. I understand why he's infatuated with Rebecca, Rebecca's best girl, but he needs to know he's not good enough for her. He's standing a few ways from the door, and there are plenty of people between us to use for cover. If I'm careful, I can just go in, hand in the stupid box to whoever's in charge, forget every plan of staying longer than necessary, and step out as soon as I can. Easy as pie. But as luck would have it, the exact moment I reach the room's threshold, someone barrels towards me. She latches onto my waist before toppling the sudden commotion with a gleeful squeal. Oh, it's Kylie.
I knew it's you!
The force of it nearly throws me off balance, sending the item stacked atop the box tilting dangerously to the sides. With the child's added weight to my waist pinning me on the spot with both my hands occupied, watching is the only thing I'm able to do. The short seconds in between slows as everything gradually slides off the box's small surface. There goes our low profile. Under different circumstances, this would have made for a funny story some other time. Comical, even. Until another set of hands reaches out and steadies the posters, threatening to take a nosedive right to the floor.
Oh, careful now, Daisy. Don't make a mess here.
Kick him in the dick. Do it. What is with him always giving women nicknames like he knows them? Like, what the fuck? It's creep behavior. My entire body freezes. Upon hearing his voice alone, an irrational impulse to hit him immediately bubbles up. But before my limbs could catch up with what my brain is currently screaming at me, he moves to take the burden off my arms. Irritation gives way to surprise. Then confusion. It is in this moment with instinct finally kicks in, and I tug the box closer to me before he can fully lift it off.
What are you doing?
What does it look like? You're surprisingly slow on the uptake for someone of your profession, aren't you?
I think he wants to get kicked in the dick again. I genuinely thinks he wants that.
Bloody, doesn't this school have people for this kind of work? Ugh, so much for being a center of academic excellence.
I'm going to ignore that slight to my alma mater and my work, because that's not what I'm trying to get at. You know what? Why don't we just rephrase that to something you'll easily understand? Why exactly are you doing this?
Well, you look like you could use a bit of help.
He's trying to get in your pants.
Have you seen your face while you were heaving this around?
Mister, I'm pretty sure if there's ever a look on my face, it's entirely because I saw something extremely unpleasant this morning.
Are they having this conversation with the little girl still latched to your waist hugging you?
Aren't you a ball of sunshine today, Daisy? Having a bad day, aren't we?
I love that his name is listed as Sleazy Douche. Never change that. Never let that change.
Oh, you have no idea.
I'd put it away if I were you. You might scare the children.
You don't have to worry about that. This isn't my department. I was just asked to bring these. Anyway, I can handle this myself, mister. The room's just right over there. Behind you, in fact. Now, if you could please move over and make way, it would do the whole world some good.
Keeping my voice level is a miracle in itself, but regardless of how polite my request is, he doesn't budge. Did what I've just said merely fly over his head? Were my choice of words really that difficult to comprehend? I don't know, you used some pretty big words. Surely it shouldn't be that hard. I think he might be a little touched in the head. I'd like to ask him that actually, but Kylie chooses that instant to pipe in.
Don't worry, Miss Pink. Tio's strong. You can leave this to him. My papa does it lots of times, but I'm not allowed to talk about it to anyone. Tio says it's
Confidential, Munchkin.
That's right. Tio's smart, isn't he, Miss Pink?
Sure. I'm still of the opinion that he's a piece of shit, but I must admit his goddaughter's excitement is contagious as always. A smile makes its way to my lips. She is yet to budge from her place, though to be honest, I'm starting to lose some feeling on my stomach with how tightly she's wound her arms around it.
I'm sure he is, Kylie. But I'm also sure he'll find better use for it elsewhere.
Like helping you out.
Oh, well, that's one thing, but...
Rebecca, just let him carry the box so you can leave.
You heard the kid.
No one's asking you.
You wound me, woman.
And I'm quite certain I can do more damage than that. Shall we give it a try? Again?
He pales, stammers for a bit, until he ultimately decides against saying anything and settles for a brief show of discomfort instead. He's probably having flashbacks to the last time we met. His composure, when he finally regains some of his bearings, says it all. It's nothing short of hilarious, if I do say so myself.
I'll have you know that threats never work on me, Daisy.
I think they do. I think they very much do.
Not in a million years, not ever.
You're assuming it's a threat. How cute.
That too. I'm not scared of you.
I think you are, and I think that's why you like her so much.
Just because you landed a hit.
Uh-huh. Do go on. Keep telling yourself that.
It was a fluke, you hear?
I don't think it was. I'm genuinely surprised more women haven't kicked you there.
I was caught off guard and your damn book left a dent. If I end up in a hospital because of what you did, I'm sending the chief of Luxburn Police after you, woman.
The one whose wife is accusing you of being the father of her child?
You don't say.
Just give me that bloody box.
He snatches it out of my arms before a single word of protest exits my mouth and quickly disappears behind the classroom. Not that it matters who brings it in now, my prior irritation has already melted into amusement. He's not so bad once you figure out how his temperament works. It's almost similar to a child. Though, I still have to ask.
Kylie, did your Tio eat something bad before coming here? He's unusually nice today.
A far-fetched idea, I know, but it's the only reason I can think of why this asshole is suddenly acting like a decent human being he's quite frankly far from being. First and foremost, we didn't end our last meeting on a good note. If I were him, I'd avoid the very person who put a dent in his skull, as he so aptly put it. Why is he acting friendly 2 days later?
He always is. But I made him promise to be extra nice to you since you helped me so much. I think you're gonna be great friends.
I quickly stomped the urge to groan loudly or gag at that. He's the last person I'd ever want to be chummy with in this whole city, but Kylie doesn't need to know that.
Are you sure it's not something he ate during breakfast?
I gave him some jelly babies this morning. Really brought me lots of them. Mama said I should share, so I offered half of it to Tio when he picked me up. He likes the black ones.
Oh, that's probably why he's weird. Jelly baby overdose.
He could have done everyone a favor and choked on them while he's at it.
Do you want some? I've got more. I couldn't find Melody or Takako this morning, but I'm sure they'll be fine sharing some of it with you.
No, I'm not really very fond of them. I was just asking. Oh, where's your mum, by the way?
Out of town with Papa.
An unexpected pang hits me at her words. The statement, though innocent enough, unearths a whole chunk of memories from childhood. So eerily familiar. Nights spent eating dinners alone, the number of days coming home to an empty house growing with each passing year, and sometimes several Christmas Eves spent with relatives instead of my own family. It's too late to think about it now, but when I remember, the dull ache is still there, familiar though lessened by the years now. Beside me, Kylie takes a step back, having gotten tired of clinging to me. There's nothing but cheer in her. She doesn't seem too affected by the fact. Though it makes me wonder how much of it is real, and how much of it is there to mask the loneliness, if there's even one. What a lucky child.
Weren't they informed of career day beforehand?
Yeah, I told them all about it. Mama was looking forward to it.
And they still left?
Uh-huh. It's important business, so it can't be helped. They promised to tell me about it when they come back tomorrow, though. Papa said he'll give me a gift if I behave. I've been a good girl, right, Miss Pink?
You always are. But they asked that douche,
Oh my
they
God!
asked your Tio to look after you? For this?
Rebecca, you just called him a douche in front of the child.
Nope, they didn't.
No? Then how?
It was supposed to be Tia. Mama likes her better than Tio, so she asked her, but she's sick and had to visit the doctor today. Oh, that's supposed to be a secret, by the way. Oh, but I think it's a bit confusing because Tio said she also went shopping. That's unfair. Don't you think so, Miss Pink? Mama doesn't allow me to go out when I'm sick. It's still okay, though, since Tio always buys me sweets before we go home. I'm gonna ask for a parfait today. Extra large. Don't tell Takako, okay?
Listening to her like this, it's easy to get a picture of where Kylie's fondness for the guy comes from. Yes, you can very easily buy a child's love with sugary sweets. She's far from being a demanding child, unless you've made a promise of some sort. She never forgets those. She'll make friends with anyone wherever she is. Buy her a few things and voila, you're settled. No wonder she's so attached to the man. The douche probably showers her with gifts whenever he can. I can't say if the sentiment's the same for the later, however. He doesn't seem the type, and probably just does it for the sake of getting some peace and quiet whenever he's with the girl. Classic techniques.
But before that, I'm gonna show him to everyone first. It's gonna be great. No one else has a gazillionaire fairy godfather. Also, when I grow up, I'm gonna be exactly like him and marry someone really handsome. Like Tia did. That way, I can be awesome too.
There's some sort of misguided logic in there that I'd like to correct. Yeah, Hannah and Luke don't have a happy marriage. I mean, he keeps trying to cheat on her. But before I can say my piece, douchebag steps in, fresh out of the commotion from the classroom behind us, and plows into the conversation with every subtlety a wrecking ball has. No shit given, despite no one asking for his opinion.
Munchkin, sweetie, trust me. You don't have to marry someone for that to happen.
I don't?
Just do your thing, darling. I'm quite sure you can do great things on your own without lugging around an extra baggage with you.
Is that what you think of Hana? That she's extra baggage? I'm gonna kill you.
Tia married you.
Oh my god, even Kylie knows that Hana can do better. Kylie drops the statement without any sort of preface, and the moment it lands, the douche finds himself grappling with the conversation.
Yeah, well, that's true, Munchkin, technically.
Do you even love her?
But it's not the same thing.
A small frown creases in the girl's eyebrows as she tries to comprehend her Tio's rather vague explanation. It's not surprising either when Luke tenses under the child's questioning gaze. It's familiar. I've seen the same look a great deal of times before on Ashton whenever he's trying to say something he can't quite phrase. Another second passes before the douche moves, kneeling in front of Kylie and placing both his hands on either side of her shoulder. Kind is the last word I'd ever use to describe the man, but in this minute, there's a smile on his face and I can't place, tender by all means for someone as obnoxious as him. It's a curious thing to see, if a bit odd.
Listen here, sweetie. Tia was already a great person before she met me.
She was!
She is? But I don't see her doing anything. She's always at home.
Yeah, she should leave you. You make her unhappy.
Not always, Munchkin. Did you know she's really good at numbers?
You're good with them too. You helped me with my homework once.
Well, Tia's much, much better than me. She used to do maths with big numbers.
Oh, like millions?
No, gazillions. And she's really, really good at it. So much so that her dad let her manage anything that had to do with it. That was even before she met me, too.
Does that mean she's better than you?
Oh, leagues, Munchkin. Way, way better than I'll ever be.
I think Luke genuinely feels bad. Luke, just stop cheating at her. Just stop cheating on her and spend more time with her, and then you can make her happy. Stop drinking, stop cheating, stop being at the office so much. You can make her happy. For some reason, I don't think he's still talking about his wife's mathematical prowess as his voice trails off. You can go to therapy and couples counseling, Luke. You don't have to be such a douchebag. In fact, had I not been paying closer attention, I wouldn't have noticed the change in him. The slight shift in his smile from from one that's tender to something wistful, like remembering a memory that he's always been fond of but has often kept to himself. And at the fleeting glance of it, a tiny insignificant part of the world somehow also shifts. Opinions changing, impressions moving.
You know what? Why don't you ask Tia next time you have homework,
Okay, next time I'll ask her to help out.
See? No need to marry a good-for-nothing bloke.
Can I also tell her to not stay at home anymore? If Tia's good at it, I'm sure she can help you out too. And Papa. He computes a lot of numbers too. Tia can help him.
You go do that. I'm sure she'll love to hear it, Munchkin, even if it's been a while since.
Another silence from him, then without missing a beat, Kylie turns around and lightly pats her shoulder, a gesture to end the conversation right then and there. Probably before he can manage to say other things he's never intended to say, or a child is not meant to hear.
But off you go first. I think I saw your friend run off to the other classroom. The one with the pigtails? Go say hi to her. You still have those jelly babies to give her, yes?
All right. But wait for me, okay? I've got loads more to show you. They put up my drawing on the bulletin the other day. I'm gonna take you there later. I'll be back.
She soon disappears behind the small crowd, none the wiser to the sudden change in the mood around her. Luke straightens as soon as she's gone. The expression on his face grows less kind now that there's no one to reassure. Despite that, a chuckle still escapes me. He quickly snaps at me, an accusing glare clear in his eyes. Although it's less threatening now considering what I've witnessed earlier. Funny how one person's impression of someone can easily change with that minute detail.
Why are you laughing like that?
Don't mind me. I just saw something surprising today. Don't let it bother you.
You know, putting it like that won't make me any less inclined to ask. What is it, woman? If this is another one of your threats, I've already told you it isn't going to work on me.
Dude, she's not gonna kick you in a... Well, she might actually kick you at school, even if she is a teacher.
That good teacher act isn't going to fool anyone.
What makes you think it has to do with you? I could have just remembered something funny. Not everything in this world revolves around you, mister.
I am not daft, Daisy. It's on your face for all the world to see. Now, say it so we can be done with this stupid talk.
I let out another laugh. More to delay than to express any sort of amusement over this matter. In truth, I don't know where to start. One wrong move, one wrong word, and I might offend the man. He's childish enough that even if what I'm about to say are just mere honest observations. You're really good at handling her. Ah well, regardless of how he acts, it's not like it'll have an impact on anything between us. I have no plans of getting too friendly with the man, so though he might as well have some good evidence on the point, might. The best treatment I can hope to give him is to stop thinking of him as a sleazy douche. Besides, after seeing that look on him, I figure someone like him can use a little compliment here and there. He probably doesn't get it much considering how coarse his own language can get.
Can't you act a wee bit polite for even a second of your life? It won't kill you. You'll easily get answers that way, you know? Instead of demanding things from people like a temperamental man-child.
I'll be nice when I want to be, woman. Don't tell me what to do.
You're not my mom!
And here I was just thinking how you're doing a brilliant job as Kylie's guardian. Was I mistaken?
Was I mistaken? What? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Stop playing dumb. I hate to admit it, but you actually seem to be good with kids. Possibly even better than most of the teachers here. What do you know?
I've expected him to just take it all in, bloat his ego more, or even brag about it. Instead, what I get from him is something resembling a squawk. Or maybe that's him choking on his own pride. I can't tell above the hubbub surrounding us. But when I glance at him, only a mortified expression is on his face.
No.
No? You should be proud of yourself. At least there's this one good thing about you. Isn't that nice to hear? Pretty sure not a lot of compliments get thrown around about you, knowing how you are.
There are a lot of good things about me, Daisy.
Okay.
My hair, for one. There's also my extraordinary good looks. Wax lyrical about those all you want. I'd be happy to hear it any day. Praise anything about me but that.
What is so repulsive about it? Even Kylie likes you. Shouldn't that tell you anything about yourself?
Kylie is one kid, not even my own. Trust me, you do not want to see me bring a spawn of my own into this world. It will be an abomination.
What the fuck? Did you promise your firstborn to a demon? Did you do that? It sounds like something a rich person would do. How much money did the demon offer?
Is that what you keep telling yourself?
Maybe. Is it any of your business?
No. But if I didn't know any better, I'd say this is because you yourself think you're a little piece of shite and somehow it'll pass on.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that, by the way.
The last remark just came out. There might be a sliver of truth in it, but I shouldn't have phrased it like that. Even for my own standards or the kind of person I'm talking to, it's still quite rude. An apology is already at my throat, but the minute I open my mouth, all of what I've prepared myself to say dissipates. Lost in a moment in front of me. He has turned his gaze outside, staring at some point past the buildings, blocking the view of the sky, equally lost in his thoughts. He's a vexing man under so many standards. However, in this moment, the morning light streaming into the window lends his features a certain air. Softer, less severe than what he often flaunts. He's got that kicked puppy look on his face. I might as well be looking at a different man. There's a tender note in his voice when he finds it, words muttered under his breath, not intended for anyone but himself. Nevertheless, it reaches my ears, unintentional as it may be.
You're right. She deserves someone far better than me.
Dude, what are you doing? You can improve as a person. You can be a good husband. All that talk about self-works makes some sense now. It isn't some profound knowledge he pulls out of his ass. It is come about because he's already been there, likely still stuck in the middle of it. Preaching about your own personal experiences is easier after all. Less room for mistakes, more for a dose of self-loathing. What a complicated man. Just when you thought you already figured him out, he does one thing and says the other. People like him are difficult to gauge for, however, far harder to understand. Yet, it might be exactly for this reason that why some are so easily charmed by him. It's the mystery that catches them, of wanting to find out who he is underneath all that bravado. I won't count myself among those yet. His winning personality isn't exactly my cup of tea. But sometimes, once you get a glimpse of what's beyond that machoism, empathizing with the man isn't such a steep hill to climb. If the comfortable silence we now share tells anything, that is. Perhaps this is as close to friendship as we can get, several insults flung around with a few shared silences in between, and that's not exactly a bad thing. He's not exactly a bad guy either, despite the awkward start we had. Maybe it's for this reason that I can't resist throwing in a little comment to lift his mood before leaving him.
You know, Luke, you're not such a bad person.
Is that supposed to make me feel better? I'm touched, Daisy.
Take it how you will, but a little attitude change would help. A lot.
Ah, bollocks.
Also therapy. Go to therapy, Luke.
Right, of course. Let me know when you're done with your lecture, ma'am.
And you can probably start by not leaving your wife out while you're having some quality time with your goddaughter. Who knows? Maybe that'll help change how the child sees her.
Where did you even get the idea I'm leaving my wife out? Have you ever even met?
No, but I did see her with you two last time.
His indifferent expression quickly dissolves into a confused scowl, which I meet with matching perplexity. It has only been 2 days, sure, but surely his memory isn't that bad.
What? When was this?
At the cafe, after you left. She was sitting right beside you. Kylie was at the back and you were driving.
Daisy, are you sure you haven't accidentally hit yourself with your own book? Because that damn thing's quite big, and I'm really getting worried about you.
Becca, you didn't see Hana, you saw the ghost.
It has only been a few days, and concussions can be dangerous. I suggest you have that checked.
I actually think he's genuinely worried she has a concussion.
Well, you asked. I just answered. It's pretty rude to make her wait like that, by the way.
How can I make her wait when she's not even with us?
What?
It was just Kylie and I that night.
Now you're just pulling my leg.
Luke exhales long and drawn out, his impatient rapidly catching up the companionable air around us. In the face of it, I tense. I've accidentally stepped into another minefield. Any chat I've had with him so far has been like this. Why does this still surprise me? Why this still surprises me escapes me. But above all, my worries of offending this man is my own bewilderment. I remember well enough that I saw that night, yet he says something completely different.
Wifey was out with Kylie's mummy that night. She wasn't with us. How do you think I ended up on babysitting duty?
But in the front seat. And Kylie's...
Miss Pink!
Oh God, what happened? No, why is the baby crying? Kylie's sob reached my ears first, and then her familiar weight returns to my waist again. Hot tears seep through my blouse as she buries her face in it, arms winding tightly around me. Luke and I briefly exchange worried glances, his own lips tight with concern. Her cries are soft enough not to attract much attention. Most of the visitors have been ushered inside to the rooms by now anyway. Those who still linger watch as our little group with interest and concern. If I don't get a better handle of the situation, I have a feeling Luke will start yelling at everyone soon. Kneeling, I gently pull the girl away from me, cupping her face and wiping away tears, creating little trails on her cheeks. Her mouth is drawn into a miserable pout when she peers up at me.
All right, Kylie. Calm down. What happened?
It's my friend!
That's a little too vague, Munchkin.
Let her speak, Luke. Who is it, Kylie? Melody? Or was it the other one?
Yeah.
Did the two of you fight?
She nods, then immediately clams up after, letting her sobs communicate the story instead, or as much as her shaking shoulders can tell me. Right behind me, Luke gives a nervous huff while he shifts on his feet. He must not be used to handling children crying. What a wuss.
Sweetie, I won't be able to help you if you don't tell me what happened.
Seconds pass before she responds again. The tears are already gone when she finally musters up the strength to talk, her cries subsiding to mere sniffles.
I wanted to give her the rest of the jelly babies, but she won't come out.
Where? Where is she?
In the little girl's room.
Is she still there?
Another
I
nod.
won't say what's wrong. I kept asking her, but she told me to go away. Career day's going to start soon. I saw the prizes Miss Alice will give us for good. She's gonna miss it.
Is that what you told her?
Yeah, she won't listen. She won't even take the jelly babies. After I saved it for her, too. She and Luke wanted to eat the red ones, but I told him it's not for him. Miss Pink, can you talk to her? Tell her to come out, and I'm really upset with her.
Ah. Just a little childish argument then. Times like this, I'm glad that I teach teenagers mature enough for petty squabbles. I do love being around children, but I wouldn't mind having one or two of my own in the future, but it takes a whole different level of patience to teach several of them. I honestly admire my colleagues who willingly took the challenge. Normally, I'd leave this for their homeroom teacher to fix, but I can't just ignore the imploring look she shoots me. There's another weakness I have to steel myself against before I even think of having one of my own. For now, I give in to it.
Okay, tell me where she is, sweetie.
Sighing, I stand up and gesture for her to lead the way. Luke trails quietly behind us. Even with the small distance in between, his apprehension is palpable, understandably so. No one wants to be caught in the middle of a children's spat. But in the end, this is all part of my job. I can't just shy away from it, can I? We're gonna find a ghost in the bathroom. That's what this is gonna be. Kylie escorts us to an adjacent hall. At this hour, the corridors and the rooms lining its sides are empty. Save for the gentle rustling of leaves and the twittering of birds outside, the tapping of our feet against the floor, the whole area stays eerily quiet. Not unusual, though. This is the part of the building reserved for club activities at the end of the day, and with the rest of the school busy with another event, it's only natural for it to be this deserted. Come afternoon, right after class, it'll once again be filled with people. For the time being, I focus on the toilets at the far end, heading straight for it. Luke stays behind, opting to wait for the end of this drama instead, obviously not wanting to deal with another person's kid. Meanwhile, Kylie follows right after me, unusually silent as we approach the ladies' room. Sometime before we've made the turn down the hallway, she has stopped sniffling and started singing a tune under her breath.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge.
Probably to brace herself or calm herself, but maybe this is her way of preparing to pull her friend out of her sulk. It certainly reminds me of another person. I make no remarks on it, however. It's all part of growing up, they say. Let her learn. The door is slightly ajar when we get to it, and from inside, the sobs of a girl echo weakly, barely audible in this kind of hush. Turns out Kylie's not the only one upset about this. Despite the situation, a smile forms on my lips as I call out to her friend.
Hello? Hello there? You're Kylie's friend, aren't you? Melody, is it? She's looking for you.
Children can be so amusing sometimes. Granted, they can be exasperating, especially around this age, but the endearing things about them outweigh those. All you need is enough level of patience.
Career day's about to start, too. You'll have to come out, or you're going to be really late for it. Miss Alice won't be happy if one of her kids isn't there. I heard she brought little gifts for everyone who'll behave. Don't you want to receive one?
However, her cries show no sign of abating. They only grow louder. Not close to a wail. Alarming regardless.
Are you okay?
From where I'm standing, it sounds almost like she's in some kind of pain, and it's not impossible. They do that at times, hiding what ails them for fear of a reprimand. If it's like that, coaxing her out might be useless. It also might make sense why she chose the loo furthest from their classroom. Wasting no time, I gesture for Kylie to wait as I amble towards the door, calmly so I don't alarm her. At the same time, a distinct sense of deja vu hits me. I've been in this position before, behind a door with someone crying on the other side, my calls ignored as their cries grow to a wail. Just this past week, actually. Even so, being in the same situation before doesn't bring any comfort. I'm putting up for the child beside me. It's the thick undercurrent of the worry trickling into my stomach. I take one last breath, and then I nudge open the door. It all happens in the span of a second. I don't make the past 2 steps into the room. Her cries abruptly stop. Light footsteps shuffle behind me, coming to a halt at the door. My heart skips a beat, and when I turn... Oh, freaking shit! The ghost is in her! Fuck! Fuck!
Miss Pink? Miss Pink? Why didn't you help her?
My whole body becomes motionless at the sight of her, words catching in my throat, heart pounding rapidly against my chest. This is Kylie, I'm sure of it. Yet nothing in the manner she speaks or the way she tilts her head in question carries the youthful, innocent vibe that she always carries with her. As if I'm merely looking at a dead, hollow imitation of the child.
Can't you hear her? She's asking for your help.
But it's not those that trigger a memory. It's those chilling eyes, calling, beckoning.
Why won't you listen to her?
All at once, the memory returns to me. The tide that has receded now returns to the shore in an overwhelming force, carrying images of a single moment from days ago. Of a word passing in a blur, of features I can barely discern under the little light there was. Not even a week has passed. In this minute, while I keep my eyes trained on the child before me, they return with such unbearable clarity. There are no horrid wounds this time, no blood streaming down the pale face, thank heavens. Just lips contorted into a small, twisted smile. They brim with venom I never expected to see in a child, sending tiny pinpricks of dread crawling up my limbs and winding up my neck.
You're a bad person. People like you deserve to die.
Oh, shut the fuck up. What do you know? You're possessing children. I can't breathe. Those whispers and laughters again. Judging. Mocking. Taunting. Each scathing word ringing sharp and true against my ears. My throat closes in. My whole body tenses. A chill settles at the tip of my fingers, every digit gone rigid from the cold. With every single draw of breath, any struggle for air, of freedom, the coils wrapped around my body tighten, dragging me down. A gradual, torturous descent into another bottomless abyss. Are you getting force choked by the ghost possessing a child? On and on and on, until I lose touch with myself and the world.
Help me.
Until darkness claims me and, unexpectedly, a note. In the distance, harsh and piercing, cutting through the thick stupor and shattering the haze without warning.
Are you ladies done with your business here? I don't have all morning to wait for you two.
Luke, help! My eyes snap open and the world shifts into place with a ragged gasp. When I glance up, a different set of eyes greet me.
Are you okay, Miss Pink?
No! No anger. No vile hatred in them. Just plain, sincere concern. Bit by bit, I become aware of my surroundings and myself as warmth steadily slips back into me. I've reached out to the nearby counter to steady myself at some point, and my knuckles have gone white from how rigid my grip on them is. It's over now, yet the tension hasn't left my body. My heart still hammers against my chest in an erratic rhythm, and my breathing still comes in short, shallow bursts. Before me, Kylie fumbles with her hands, utterly unsure of what to do to an adult in what's probably a laughable state.
Did you get sick? I'll call Tio, okay? Stay here and don't move.
No. No need. Just leave me alone.
Tio will know how to fix you. Oh, wait, okay?
I wish I can speak reassurances to her, but I can't shake it off. The dread is there, twisting at my insides in anticipation. Of what? I am no longer sure. Pushing myself off the counter, I break into a run. Brushing off the anxious look Kylie gives me, I gently push her on my way out, or if the furrow in Luke's brows when I stumble into him outside. Whatever they both saw on my face, I don't care to know. Bloody hell, I don't even understand what's happening anymore. The tremors continue long after the last of my class has ended. Although none of my students have commented on it, I've caught a few sharing anxious glances every time a pen slips by a hand or my shoulders tense whenever called. How unusual it must be for them to see the normally composed Miss Gales become a bundle of nerves. Even the most boisterous ones have given me less grief today. You'd think being on my 4th cup of tea would provide some sort of comfort. Or is this the 5th? Egad, why does counting matter now? The fact that I can't easily shake off this time should tell me something. The last time this happened, I passed it off as some sort of lapse on my part, after having been sick the week before.
And it is a natural conclusion.
Those are just stories, a century-old lore passed by the locals to keep children in line. What place doesn't have those? One of my dad's books even went as far as to describe them as a strong part of Isabella's culture. Tree giants, women who feed upon unborn children straight from another mother's womb, or hell, there's even that one story about a demon baby. And folklore never had a smidgen of truth in it. All folklore that never had a smidgen of truth in it, most probably told to scare off the natives there were back in the old days. But much like every other one in every other place, the world is much more universal than people care to think. But looking at it from where I'm standing now, after staring straight into the eyes of that woman, after all things I've been hearing and feeling perhaps there really is more to that bloody letter than some awful Halloween prank.
Perhaps Isabella's right all along.
Nice of you to finally get with the program. A terrible thing if true. Though that thought doesn't linger long, thankfully. Soon the ringing of my mobile takes my attention away from it. An unfamiliar name flashes before me once the screen lights up and my brows knit together. Marianne McCullough. Staring hard at the screen, I try to remember when I've encountered this person when I entered this person into my contact list. It takes a moment, but when it clicks, my eyes zero in on the book lying wide open on my table. Loaned out from the library almost a week ago. I met the woman there by sheer coincidence, a fellow history buff apparently. We were there after the same book, but in the end, she'd given it to me under the condition that I call her once I'm done. To be honest, I've completely forgotten about it until now, and I haven't really taken a peek at it until today. Normally, I'd be done with a whole volume of this size a few days after taking it, about 1 or 2, depending on how busy I am. But finding the chance to sit down and read has been more difficult lately than I anticipated. Yeah, being haunted by a ghost will do that to you. One moment, I'm simply grading worksheets, attending a movie premiere. The next, then someone suddenly is inviting me out for one reason or another. Days later, a friend stops showing up in her flat right after worrying reports pop up in the local news. There simply isn't enough time to breathe and get a grip on things. I have been flipping through the pages of said book moments ago, though never really reading anything and merely hoping for a distraction. To no avail. My phone gives out another ring, and this time I do not hesitate to answer.
Marianne?
Hello! Here I was starting to wonder if it was a bad time to call. Is it?
No, not at all. I dismissed my last class a few minutes ago. I'm pretty much free for the rest of the afternoon. Unless something comes up. Is this about last time? The book?
Not really. I was hoping to ask you about some other thing.
Oh, sure. What about?
You grew up in this city, didn't you?
It's a peculiar question to ask someone you've just met, but I answer her nonetheless. I'm more curious about where she's heading with this than by starting with that.
Born and raised, 3rd-generation migrant. Why do you ask?
So, you must be familiar with the local lore. The, stories?
Quite. If I'm going to teach about history, I'd like to think I am, yeah? But a family friend would be a better person to ask. If you want, I can contact him for you.
No, let's just keep this thing between us, okay? It's nothing too big. Alright. I really don't know how else to put this without sounding a bit crazy. But things have been really, odd. Do you remember the mansion I mentioned back when we met? My current project?
Yeah, super haunted. In hindsight, I should have expected it'll lead to this. She must not have lived here long if she's just asking about this now. It didn't take a week with Isabella when she arrived, but that's Isabella, superstitious down to the last hair. Though I won't be far off, I think, to think Marianne has only started thinking about this recently. She's working on the damn house itself. I must admit, even I'm curious now, despite being here for many years and having so many chances to look it up before.
The Ermengarde Mansion, yes?
Yes, that one. And, the thing is... Oh dear, this is a bad idea. You know what? Just forget I ever called you about this.
When you're being haunted by a ghost, you need to tell other people in your life that it's happening so they can help you fight the ghost!
It must have been the sunny weather. It's making me sick and see stupid things.
See things?
No, wait. It's all right. I don't mind.
There's a moment of pause before she responds again. She's right in that this is a silly thing to talk about, especially between I assume, two people who are pretty grounded in their beliefs with regards to these things. I won't blame her if she hesitates.
I can't believe I'm asking you about this.
It's fine. Why don't you just think of it as some form of research?
Well, alright. But after this, we're going to forget we ever had this talk.
My lips will be sealed. Now, what is it about the mansion?
Just, what do you know about it? The general gist. The place's past. What happened to the owners? Anything you can give me.
Let's see. To start off,
Oh my god, what the hell is that noise? I'm gonna take a quick break and see if I can figure that out real quick. Be right back. And I'm back. Part of the problem with doing streams on weekend afternoons is that that's when all of your neighbors are mowing their lawns. I do my best to give her a concise summary from when the house was commissioned. Oh my god. Yeah, that's just gonna be there. I do my best. It's so bad I can feel the desk that my computer's on vibrating. I do my best to give her a concise summary, but from the time the house was commissioned to 400 years ago and who had built it, up to the point that it had gotten deserted after the last heir's death and the deed was passed on the Immergard mansion's nearest relatives. Frankly, if it weren't for those urban legends pestering the house, would have probably faded into obscurity long ago. Demolished even. These are all nothing she probably hasn't heard before, yet there's a dissatisfaction in her tone once I finish.
That's all there really is to it?
As far as I know. There's this little bit I forgot to mention about Lady Charlotte Ermengarde's death, but most of those are just theories.
What theory? Tell the theory. I want to hear the theory. Please raise your voice so you can be heard over my neighbor's lawnmower.
Aside from that, this is really everything we've been teaching all these years. Should there be anything more?
No mention of any other weird stuff? Other crazy stories? Or a letter of some sort?
Title drop. My blood runs cold. All the warmth and comfort from the tea I drank has given me prior has been instantly drained out of me. The phone creaks softly as my light hold on it turns into a firm grip. This whole letter bullshit is starting to turn into more than a coincidence.
None that I've heard or read of. What does a letter have to do with this?
Oh, no. It was just something I came across. Ignore it. Random thoughts, you know? By the way, I need to run. Thanks for answering my questions.
She ends the call abruptly with only a clipped goodbye, leaving my mind heavy with even more thoughts. The mood around my classroom has gone considerably denser in light of what little I've gleaned from this conversation. I don't think Marianne's lying about her intent. Her interest is genuine. I'd give her that, but she's left out a lot of things. I get the sense that she's only asked because something's happening around her too, and if she hadn't mentioned the letter, I probably wouldn't have made the connection.
Just what the hell did we get ourselves into?
Of course, there's still a lot of confusing details in this. All of these are just assumptions. No concrete conclusion to be formed with what we have and what we want out of that and what we want out of what we're dealing with, I think. I think Marianne's right. I think there might be something more to those stories. As absurd as it sounds, the very place that gave us that letter might tell us something beyond what we know. And tomorrow night, I have a few hours of that chance at the housewarming party. Totally not an exciting thought since the place is privately owned now, but I can't just wander around. But it's enough reason to keep the dread at bay as I step out of the room, ready to put an end to this day. However, all those good vibes disappear into thin air when I run headfirst into Luke. There's really something in this man. Regardless of how much my opinion of him has changed over the span of a few hours, he simply blasts through every good impression people have of him without care or thought. He doesn't even need to open his mouth, his mere presence does it. In all honesty, I think he's the kind of guy only a mother can love. I don't think his mom loved him. I think that, his parents not loving him probably was part of the problem.
You're still here?
Obviously. Who do you think's standing in front of you?
An ass.
Oh, come on, Daisy. You've done better than that. Losing your touch?
Luke, I don't have time for this. I'm heading home, and your face is the last thing I want to see before I leave. What do you want?
Belatedly, I notice his hand. Partly raised, almost poised for a knock. A slight lift of an eyebrow, he quickly drops it to his side and turns to Kylie. She's standing a few steps away from him, holding her hands behind her back and towing at something on the floor with the tip of her shoe. Then he proceeds to make a vague gesture at me and the child. He resembles a fish flopping for air with the way he's moving his arms, though I think he's trying to urge her to speak up.
Munchkin, I thought you wanted to tell her something.
You do it, Tio.
This wasn't my idea, darling.
Don't worry. I won't tell Tia what you told me the other day. And this morning.
Luke exhales, rolling his eyes at the ceiling and maybe praying for the universe to grant him more patience. He knows a losing battle when he sees one. He may act worse than a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum at times, but he's no match for an actual child. Nothing better than being served a dose of his own medicine, huh? Once his frustration has been promptly let out, he points a rude finger at me. I do my best to stare at the offending digit down, but I can already hear the demand before it's even out of his lips.
You, come with us.
What makes you think I will?
Because little Rugrat here is upset and worried, and it's your bloody fault. I've no idea what happened this morning, but if you don't come with us, I won't be hearing the end of it from her. So do me a favor, Daisy, and just be glad I'm inviting you.
You're asking for a favor, and you can't be bothered to be polite?
Rebecca, get the expensive parfait! It'll be worth it!
I don't know. It's been a really busy day for me. I kind of miss my couch.
Daisy, you just say yes.
A pause follows, almost too dramatic. Afterward, his face twists into something between a grimace and a smile. As it happens, he appears like he's in a lot of physical pain. You'd think the man is getting an aneurysm by simply being polite.
Please?
Oh,
Tia
wow.
said it'll be his treat.
What? I said no such thing, Munchkin.
Well, Kylie said it for you.
I only agreed to this because you requested it. I'm under no obligation to feed her.
Yes, you are.
I promise I'll be quiet the next time I visit.
Oh, all right, but just one meal and make it the cheapest.
Wow, you really know how to treat a girl. He and Ashton will get along famously on that department. On a different front, the offer of free dinner does sound enticing, however half-heartedly given it is. Mostly because Kylie has wisely put on her puppy eyes, and by the second I find I find all my choices slipping away from me.
See, Miss Pink? It'll be fun. You don't have to feel sad anymore, okay?
Oh, well,
My mobile buzzes from my pocket, cutting me off mid-sentence, and for a second I'm spared the act of giving an answer I'll regret either way. Fishing the gadget out, I wave a hand to him and excuse myself, disgruntled expression on Luke's face before I turn away. I'd be lying if I say it didn't amuse me. He's eager to be done with this as I am, but what can I do? Checking a message from Ashton shows up. Hey Becca, I'll be around Samwell this evening. Need to meet someone in the area. I might have to drop by yours and Isabella's place after. See ya. Oh, just the usual. Unlike what he does to Zachary, Ashton has the decency to let us know when he's dropping by or he's in the area for some business. From the way he's phrased it, it sounds like the later. Either way, I'm glad he's at least aware of that boundary, not that Isabella's ever going to let him leave the building unscathed if he ever pulls that same stunt he does with the other man. I cringe to imagine what she'll do to him. Sighing, I slip the gadget back in my pocket. By looking up at Luke's utter impatience on his face, I now face a different dilemma. The two of them are still waiting, and knowing the kind of person Luke is, this is already a grand gesture of goodwill coming from him. All to please his godchild. His denials aside, it's easy to tell he's really fond of Kylie from his actions alone. I kinda hate to ruin that.
Well, Daisy, we're waiting here.
On the other hand, there's Ash. Yeah, the guy you've been pining for since you were a child. Yeah, childhood friend romance. Still haven't reached the romance part yet. His message doesn't exactly imply that he's going to wait or that he's expecting me to be there, but there are matters, I hope, to discuss with him in person, to put it simply. Housewarming party matters. With inviting Isabella out of the question, I only have Zachary and Ashton. Although the former has already made it clear that he'll be busy this week, and while Ashton has been my first choice from the start, even if he detests attending gatherings like this, it's company that counts. We can be miserable together. But that's the problem, isn't it? He hates them, and it's very likely his answer will be a flat no. I'd rather not hear that, but if by some miracle he agrees to it, he'll probably be sulking the entire party. Not really a tough choice when you put it like that still. Tough choice, but I have to pick one. Okay, I either hang out with them or I go see Ashton. Okay, I want to go see Ashton because I want to tell Ashton about the ghost stuff. I gotta go tell Ashton about the ghost stuff. Though when you look at it closely, it isn't such a difficult decision to make. First and foremost, no matter where I look, this is inappropriate to some degree. Disregarding Luke's honest intentions, I've only known the man for a grand total of 2 days, including today. If I'm going to be thoroughly specific, I'd give a grand total of around 10 hours. By all means, that's not enough reason for me to join them for dinner, even if he says Kylie's the one who requested it. To other people, it won't appear as innocent as he makes it out to be, and if there's one ugly thing about this city, it's the place's penchant for inane gossip. One little spark, and it'll spread like wildfire. Who knows how far it'll go, how many ears it'll reach. What if Ashton hears about it? I'd rather not think about the consequences to that. I've got enough on my plate lately as it is. I'm beginning to... Being at the center of a rumor mill, along with this man, in whatever form it takes, sends unpleasant chills down my spine. My answer must have already shown on my face as Kylie's immediately dissolved into a pout.
You're not gonna join us, are you?
I'm sorry, Kylie. I'd love to, but I have other things to do. Another time, maybe? A friend just texted me about something urgent, and he wants to meet tonight.
Just say it's a date, Daisy. The little rugrat will understand. She's not an infant. No need for blatant lies.
Heat instantly crawls up my face at his baseless insinuations. Oh, what I would give for another chance to put a real dent in his skull.
What even gave you that idea? And even if it is, why do you care? Stop sticking your nose in other people's affairs.
Oh, your face says it all, woman. You think I won't recognize those longing looks?
There isn't a look, There isn't a look, all right?
Sure, whatever helps you sleep at night, Daisy.
You already have a story written inside that head of yours, don't you?
Oh, please. It's not that interesting.
Luke writes smutty fan fiction on the internet. That's his deepest, darkest secret, and the ghost knows about it. And the reason the ghost hasn't killed Luke yet is because the ghost is a fan of his work and really wants to read the end of the multi-chapter fic he's working on. And while he's typing it, the ghost low-key acts as a beta reader, just reading over his shoulder.
The color of your face does suit you, though. Matches the hair. Well, come on now, Munchkin. I'll just buy you an extra glass of that parfait.
With extra strawberries?
I'll get you a basket full if you want. As long as you behave. And no complaints if they don't have enough syrup again. Deal?
Deal. Have fun with your date, Miss Pink.
Oh, God. Well, you know what? Ashton should get with the program. Ashton has a real chance here to be with the best girl. And he's just letting it slip through his face. Then again, he might go for Isabella. Honestly, you know what? Ashton has two hands. All three of them should just be a throuple. Problem solved. Luke's already leading the child away before I can correct her. Upon reaching the end of the hall, however, he doesn't miss the chance to shoot me another one of those infuriating winks. Does he really think women enjoy those? I'd sue him for harassment if I can. Though I must admit, the two of them walking together, hand in hand, is an endearing sight in itself. He says he dislikes the idea of having children of his own, but it's easy to see some part of him genuinely wants them. What's stopping him? Well, I don't think he's in love with his wife. He seems to think highly of her, but at the same time, he cheats on her, and he doesn't communicate with her, and they should really, really go to couples counseling. It's something to mull over, along with every other confusing and frustrating thing about this guy. Some other time, though, Ashton's waiting. His car's headlights have been left turned on, illuminating the otherwise empty parking lot. If it's like that, this is probably going to be a quick visit. Although, our landlady would probably have a few hundred words to say about this before letting it go. Not many people in this complex own a vehicle anyway to warrant the space's frequent use, owing the area's proximity to downtown Luxbourne. No one's going to be disturbed if one car stays parked with its lights on for a few minutes. Right now, though, it serves as pleasant company while I idle inside my own car, thumbing the invitation's fine print, flipping it over until the motions become familiar enough. What should I say? How should I say it? There's a very high chance he'll say no, but on the off chance he accepts, what should I do? Okay, don't worry, Rebecca. I'm here to wingman for you. We got this. Doubts. Questions I haven't asked before, and more often than not, the anxiety is because of him. 17 years ago, if I'd been in the same position, a different letter in hand. Somehow, nothing has changed. Perhaps if he'd noticed how I always felt about him years ago, I wouldn't be in this predicament. Honestly, he'd managed to ace all those exams at school without even lifting a finger, and he couldn't even figure this out?
How dense can he get?
Pretty dense. But I can't very well wait for another 2 decades just for something as measly as an invitation, can I? It's not like it's going to be a date. It could be if you asked. Although, frankly, I wouldn't mind if it is. However, that's a wish best reserved for some other time. I won't get anywhere if I just keep thinking about what-ifs. Gathering all my thoughts and courage, I step out of my car and gingerly make my way upstairs, invitation in hand. Ever since the incident 3 days ago, there's a strange air permeating the atmosphere here. But the sort that slowly trickles through you, until a burden of it finally bogs you down with some kind of disquiet. The days have been uneasy, and Isabella's absence from her flat doesn't help matters. Every day, coming home somewhat feels like an uphill battle in itself, leaving you spent when you're supposed to be getting some rest. Is Zachary experiencing the same thing? I certainly am. The same weary slump is also on Ashton's shoulders once I catch a glimpse of him. He's leaning casually on the rails back against the metal surface while reading through a bunch of papers. Each one more important than the other, despite me having never read a letter of it. He'll probably head back to the precinct after this. He's not going to drop by Zachary's for a bit of he's not going to drop by Zachary's for a bit of shut-eye. No rest for the wicked. But no matter how occupied he seems, he pauses anyway and looks up from his work the moment he hears my treads. He raises a hand in greeting, a small smile spreads across his lips. Exhausted as I am, I can't help but return it to him.
What brought you here?
He hums something inaudible, neither an answer nor a vague hint, before he turns his attention back to the papers. For a passing second, I thought he ignored or evaded the question like every single time I've asked. But then he shuffles the documents back into a binder and settles it aside with a huff. It sounds more fatigued than I'd ever heard from him recently. Either there's simply too many things keeping him busy at once, or his investigation isn't going well. Maybe both.
Just work.
Just work? Do you expect me to believe that?
In a way. I didn't think an important contact ditched me and now I'm stuck would make for a cool alibi. Did it work?
A little bit.
As if there's going to be any difference. You're still a dafty. Anyway, do you want to come in? But if you're going to hang around for a bit, you better turn those headlights off. My landlady's one hairline away from banning you off this place, you know?
Is it because of the time he almost set Isabella's apartment on fire? And it was on the news. Because of how badly he burned the salad.
Stop taking the piss out of her. She's a nice woman.
When she stops taking the piss out of Shirley, maybe I will.
You and your bloody car.
The first time I've heard of the name, I did a double take. From the way he put it, it was as if he was talking about some sort of woman he met somewhere, surprisingly got along with, and had grown fond of. Never mind how impossible that is, knowing his lack of interest in people outside of our small circle. Honestly, it sent a surge of panic in me. It lasted for days, till he proudly introduced me to his new car. His car!
Hey, it's a nice name. Don't laugh at it. You'll hurt her feelings. I'm gonna have to give that offer a pass, though.
Nothing unexpected, but admittedly I'm hoping he'll stay for a few minutes. Suddenly asking him to accompany me to some sort of housewarming party is starting to turn into a bad idea. If he can't even be bothered to spare a second of his time to his friends, what more if he has to stand some hours in a room full of strangers?
I need to get going. I just dropped in to check on something and...
His words trail off, cut mid-sentence on purpose, leaving it for me to comprehend the rest of it. At the same time, his eyes shift momentarily to the drawer closest to us. Isabella's unit. Eerily quiet now in her absence. The instant his lips curve into a small frown and his shoulders tense, I know the work is far from his reasons for being here. Being too aware of that idea alone summons another dull ache straight into my chest. Like every time, every single moment, he affords her the attention he can never seem to spare the others. While it's a worry that better left for a different situation, it twinges the heart nevertheless.
Is there a problem?
Nothing of note. Abigail just wanted to ask her a few things. It's related to that incident with Cooper. You heard the one.
Hold on. She isn't in trouble, is she?
No, I don't think so. Not as far as I know. And do you really think Scaredy Cat can do anything like that? It's just an off-the-record thing, okay? Abigail wanted to confirm something. She knows I'm friends with someone working at BRC, so she asked me.
Apparently she isn't getting anything from that company, as long as the red tape's in the way. It's nothing urgent, though. She isn't answering her phone again, so I thought I'd check myself. I can wait until she gets home.
If she comes home soon. The last time I saw her was 2 nights ago.
What is Isabella doing? Is she trying to hunt down the ghost? His demeanor immediately changes. Despite his careful attempt to appear nonchalant, his eyes scream of an unspoken worry. It's almost painful to see how much he tries to hide it, especially in front of someone he has known for years.
What? Did she take a vacation or something?
Nope.
No word from her, unfortunately. And I don't think she'll go on a trip without telling us. It's been 2 days. 3 if she's not going to show up tomorrow either. Do you think we might have to file a missing person report?
Yeah, probably. That's a good idea.
I hope not. Even Zach's not acting like himself already. I wonder what that guy ate. But let me know if anything happens. You know how to contact me. I'll see you later, Becca.
Ashton squeezes my shoulder light as he can before stepping away and heading straight for the stairs. His way of offering comfort in the middle of this mess we found ourselves in. But amidst all of this, a tiny voice at the back of my mind nudges at the memory. Something I've forgotten and the very reason why I've chosen to return home early. He's made 4 steps down when the realization kicks in and awareness of the envelope I've been holding returns to me. Panic rears before proper words can form or I can think about the situation. Not a second sooner, I'm calling after him.
Ashton, wait!
He halts 1 foot down another step when he turns to me, raising an eyebrow in question.
Yeah?
Of all times, it is this moment when I falter, the adrenaline from earlier panic suddenly recedes. All of a sudden, none of the things I prepared to say will take form, and I'm caught between simply forgetting about this or just blurting it out while hoping for the best. Should I even? No! Ask him to spend time with us! If you're going to the creepy haunted mansion, you should bring a buddy! Tomorrow afternoon, do you have time? There's nothing wrong with trying, I suppose. I'm not going to lose anything if he says no. Which frankly has a very high chance of happening than the opposite, though the thought still doesn't pervade the heat crawling up my face and sending my heart racing. It's better to get this over with before my throat closes up and I lose my nerve.
Tomorrow afternoon. Do you have time?
A small frown is already on his face. I already see where this is going and what he's thinking from that alone. Yet, for some mullish reason, I continue. Hanging on to that tiny glimmer of hope, he'll say yes if I present an argument good enough for him.
That depends. Why?
Well, you see, someone sent an invite for a housewarming party, and I thought you might want to...
Rebecca, I'd rather stand on the messy end of a gunshot. You know that.
A man of principle.
I know, it's just... You're one of the few people I can count on with things like this.
That's cool, I appreciate the thought. But really, Zach's a better companion. Gatherings like that just aren't my cup of tea.
It did cross my mind, you know. If he isn't busy with his freelance work, I'd probably ask him too. Actually, you two would have been spared if Isabella was here, but...
Why not just skip out on it? The world's not going to end if one guest doesn't show up.
Tell him about the ghost!
Trust me, I'd love to. But I promised Mom I'll be there.
Still can't say no, huh?
Like you're any better. Besides, the person who sent this is an old friend of Mom and Dad. If it's important to them, why not? Though, who would have thought, huh? The famous Evans heir used to be tutored by my parents. Apparently, we also met before.
Wait, who?
See, this is relevant to your case. You should come with them to snoop.
Evans. Hannah Evans. Well, she's already married. She goes by Hannah Wright now. Remember the couple who bought the mansion Isabella's selling?
The same people?
Yep.
As far as I know. Unless I misread their address, or there's another Hannah Wright in this city that we don't know about.
Let me see that.
Yeah, you're coming to the party. Without waiting, he walks closer and takes the invitation off my hands, gently but with the same force of urgency in his voice. I don't know what he finds in it, but his eyebrows are drawn together and his eyes scan through the little lines of text printed on the small piece of paper. He holds his hold on the envelope tightens with each press, and by the time he has finished reading, his mouth has formed a thin
You
line.
never mentioned this.
We met just once. Or at least, that's what Mum told me. Honestly, I can't recall anything from it. Otherwise, I would have told you about it.
He hums, something inaudible under his breath, all while thumbing the paper, staring at it as if doing so will proffer him answers to every unspoken question in his head. When he gleans nothing from it, he merely folds the envelope back to its form.
All right. I'll go with you.
Woo!
What?
I'll go with you. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Unless you've already made up your mind about asking Z-Man.
No, I told you already the guy's busy. Why would I bother him for this when I can go alone? But what about your own work and...
I can make time for this. 3 o'clock, yeah? I'll pick you up an hour or so before.
My head reels, less from what this implies and more from how easy all this seems for him, how fast his turnaround is. He's already halfway down the stairs when any semblance of sense returns to me, and I can finally string 2 words of protest together. Yet, all of it dies on my tongue at a small smile he shoots me. He disappears from view a few seconds later, his foot gradually fading as he descends the stairwell until I can hear my own shallow breaths of a heartbeat, loud, pounding hard against my chest. It's only after I'm standing alone in my room minutes later that it sinks in. He has taken the invitation with him, but besides that, more than that, he has also accepted mine. Calling this happiness is a complete understatement. For now, looming thoughts of the mansion and that woman lay silent at the back of my head. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'll be right back. And I'm back. The night wears on without any further incident, despite the great number of thoughts swimming inside my head. Come morning, there's only a hush, a strange sort of stillness, unlike the ones greeting me every other morning. This one's uneasy, tight with anticipation, and still stretched thin, merely waiting for a proper time to snap. Granted, it doesn't make my day any less pleasant, but the edge is there. As expected, the second I step out of my flat, it comes apart, broken by the voices of two squabbling adults echoing from a floor below. The quiet was nice while it lasted. Shame.
What the hell were you thinking?
Oh.
I wasn't. Ow! Could you let go?
Ashton, I want you to think very carefully about what you're doing right now. Now, a few seconds later, they both ascend the stairs with Ashton pulling Isabella by her wrist. Ashton, you need to let go right the fuck now. She struggles as she should, but his hold on her remains firm. Freeing herself means having to draw blood as she attempts to pry his hand off with her other one or using unnecessary force to push herself away. Neither of which is better than the other. One could potentially end up in an accident while the other means having to hurt him physically. She has good sense to realize that at least, but it doesn't take the desperate edge in her voice when she answers Ashton's temper with her own. So, on they go, none the wiser to my presence. Yeah, Rebecca, put a stop to this. What the hell?
Do you have any idea how much trouble you could get in?
That's why I'm asking you for help.
Is this what you've been doing these past 3 days? Because this doesn't make your case convincing, Isabella.
Rose died, Ash.
Oh, shit.
I know. Every single person in Luxburg knows. It's on the damn news. But that doesn't mean...
Ash, darling. A little bit more tact, if you will.
People are missing. Some of those are my friends. And BRC's just covering it all up.
You can't just barge into my office and expect me to do anything about it, right off the bat. This isn't a children's game, Isabella. We have procedures. We have to follow protocol. There's red tape all over this case for a reason.
Oh, shit.
We sure as hell don't investigate things just because some stupid letter spooked us.
Ashton, you're being a dick right now, and I'm not certain if I want you to end up with Rebecca anymore, because I'm not sure if you deserve her now. And I am pretty sure that is the sound of 2 separate lawnmowers being on at the exact same time. Lovely.
Ash, you have to believe me this time. If we don't do anything right now, more people will...
It's been a whole week. This stupid letter prank is getting old real fast. I'm sick of it. It was funny the first time, not so much now.
You're the only one that can help me with this, Ash. Even Rebecca won't.
All right, you two are awfully loud.
Step in, Rebecca! Put a stop to it!
What's going on here?
Both of their heads snap up, almost in unison. A displeased frown is on each of their faces, but this is a necessary interruption. What can they do? People still in their units have already taken interest in the commotion, with some taking a peek behind their curtains, while others are bold enough to creep open their doors, if only slightly. If they don't keep it down pretty soon, our landlady will show up. Getting a reprimand from her is the last thing I want to happen first thing on a Friday morning, even if this is hardly my fault.
Well, if you want to continue this, you two better do it elsewhere. You're disturbing other people.
Don't worry, we're done here.
No, we aren't. Becca, I looked it up. I called them. I visited some of them and...
Which you shouldn't have done in the first place. Isabella, you're going to create more problems for us with what you're doing. A team has already been assigned to it. Leave it to us.
I don't trust them. They're in league with the ghost.
Your precious team is looking at it the wrong way.
Yeah, they don't know about the ghost.
Becca, it's not just Rose. There are others.
The last bit strikes a chord, prods strongly at a memory. At the vicious smile already etched deeply inside my mind. The image appears clear enough at the mere mention of it, I stumble on my own question.
What do you mean?
The letter, Rebecca! It's not...
It's nothing. If there's really something going on because of that dumb letter, none of us would be standing here. We've all read it, haven't we? But Rebecca's alive, Zach's alive, I'm alive. So for the last time, this isn't a curse.
You're all being super fucking haunted!
There's a murderer on the loose, and your coworkers happen to be the victims. Give it a rest, Isabella. It's too early for this shit.
No!
Do you think that's too much for a coincidence?
Not so much. Most serial killers follow a pattern. I'll tell you about it some other time. And anyway, coincidence or not, the point is, civilians like you aren't supposed to get involved. You're putting yourself in danger.
I wasn't chasing after.
Will the both of you slow down and stop arguing for a minute?
Rebecca, trying to get with Ashton? Over. We're not doing that anymore, okay? You're gonna try and romance Isabella right now. I don't know if that's an option in this game, but we're gonna try anyway.
What's this about your coworkers, Belle?
Becca, please don't tell me now you believe this shit.
I believe it! Sure, in a heartbeat, I'll agree with Ashton. That's how it's always been. Besides, having a very good point, really, they're the very same ones that he'll make every time I ask too many questions. But the fact of the matter is, what he wants to hear from me right now is far from what I've been seeing and sensing these past few days. It doesn't matter what Isabella or I believe on our own. Something odd has been happening around me, and that letter she picked up is at the heart of this. But however I respond to the question in their faces, only one of them will be pleased with it. I might have seen her. We need to communicate with our friends. We need to be open and honest about the ghost. Ashton in particular won't be too happy to hear it. Imagining the look on his face doesn't take too much effort. His entire posture shifts the moment my reluctance shows, shoulders tensing, brows furrowing, eyes gaining a sharp edge. He's already bracing himself for the disappointment. And it will be a disappointment. Not in a million years did I ever believe I'd be saying this either.
I might have seen her. The woman Belle's been telling us about. The one she said she saw in the attic.
Both of them stare at me like I've grown an extra head, and for a few moments, Ashton looks like he's about to have a fit. A pause treads at its heels after, a silence thick enough that one can almost hear a pin drop.
You're kidding, right?
I'm so happy we're finally having open and honest communication about the ghost.
Do I look like I'm joking?
Really, Becca? Not funny.
Ash, I'm not lying. Why would I lie about this? It's been this way since the film fest. The past few days have been really odd since we read that letter. Last night, you mentioned Zach hasn't been acting like himself. Maybe you should ask him, too.
Or maybe you're all just feeling under the weather.
I'm not sick. Don't you think I'd know that by now?
Becca, you're starting to sound like Scaredy Cat.
Look, it's not Becca's fault the ghost is haunting you. You guys need to talk about it. You can't just ignore it and hope it'll go away.
Give me a break.
Why don't you?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you two.
You didn't do anything wrong, Isabella. It's not your fault. Isabella's voice cuts sharply through the conversation, abruptly putting an end to the brewing argument.
It's all my fault. This is all my fault.
No, it's not. It's the ghost's fault.
I was only hoping I could fix this before any of you. I'm sorry for dragging you all into this.
She breathes in, deep, steadying, and in that moment, something falls behind her eyes as she looks away.
I'll fix this. I promise.
A quiet resolve. The same one I saw in her from the night 3 days ago. But this time, it burns brighter. Even Ashton wavers at the sight of it when she looks him straight in the eye, gaze unflinching. Gradually, his grip on her wrist loosens.
Belle, there's nothing to fix. The problem is...
Oh my fucking god, why do my neighbors have the loudest lawnmower in the world? Ah, stupid freaking lawnmower. Ugh.
Just this once, Ash.
Her voice, though small and lacking any force, stops him. Along with it, every sound, oh my fucking god. When the lawnmower, I can feel my desk vibrating from the noise of the lawnmower. Holy shit. Along with it, every sound, every noise dies around us, a hush descending as if the world is waiting for her words.
You don't have to come with me. But if I don't do anything, I am going to regret it.
She lays a hand atop his. Gentle, pleading, almost intimate if one does not consider the circumstances we found ourselves in. Ashton will never tell a soul, will never admit it even to himself, but I'm going to murder one of my neighbors. I'm going to kill them. I'm going to kill them, and I'm going to light their lawnmower on fire. That was a joke. That was a joke. You can't act as a witness to this in court. That was a joke. Haha, kidding! No, I'm not kidding. I'm kidding! Ashton will never tell a soul, will never admit— oh my fucking god! Ashton will never tell a soul, will never admit to himself, but it is that sort of second that his own resolve breaks. The moment the hard edge in his eyes softens, that he relinquishes his hold on her, letting the hand fall limply to his side. Wordlessly, Isabella backs and runs off, leaving only a muttered thanks and a small lackluster smile. Only after the last of his footsteps fade away, does Ashton move, breaking the silence with one of his sharp exhales before screeching up to pinch the bridge of his nose in a gesture of frustration and surrender.
Did you really have to tell her that?
Yeah! We need to tell each other about the ghost!
What do you want to hear from me then? That everything's fine?
No, I want all of you to stop putting these ideas in her head. None of it is helping.
Ashton, you need to believe in the ghost. You need to believe in the ghost so we can deal with the ghost. There are no other options.
Never mind. Don't worry about her. I'll bring her back here.
He's already poised to leave when my own instinct takes over. I reach for him, gripping his elbow in the same unyielding grip, the action prompted by voices whispering at the back of my mind. He's already made it clear he's not going to believe me, but he deserves a word of caution. Who knows where all of this will take us, how all of this will end. He shouldn't be caught off guard, beliefs notwithstanding.
Ash, I know you don't believe in those things she's saying. And you know me. I'm less inclined to believe in those things as you do. But I've seen something. There's something strange going on here. You don't have to buy it. If you don't want to listen to me, fine. But please, try to hear her out. It's bad enough that Isabella goes off like this without telling anyone. I'm just worried something might happen to her if she keeps at it. Talk to her, okay?
As if she trusts me enough for that.
Doesn't the fact that she approached you first about this, instead of me, already say a lot?
A different kind of trust, granted implicitly and never spoken, sometimes too big, too fragile to last. He falls silent for a moment as he turns it over in his mind. In the end, all he manages to offer is a small nod before he departs and a promise to, at least, listen to her without the teasing or jibes. A favor for me, the least he could do for her. This is as much as I can do for him as well, until I've understood what's happening myself. Tonight, hopefully, where this all started, will provide the answers I'm looking for. Except the whole thing's off to a bad start, and all of a sudden, whatever Isabella claims is dwelling in this mansion becomes the least of my concerns. Severely underdressed is a total understatement to how I look. Cars worth more than my own apartment and childhood home combined line the mansion's— oh my fucking god, that lawnmower! Just when I think they're gonna stop, it just starts again. Cars worth more than my own apartment and childhood home combined line the mansion's front yard. Men and women decked out in their best also flock near the entrance. Most eager are for the festivities to start, while some are simply idling about, enjoying the warm afternoon sun before it sets. But once the woman standing in the front porch speaks, their undivided attention immediately shifts to her. Presumably Miss Wright, from the confident manner in which she holds herself among the present company. This, despite keeping a far simpler appearance than the rest of her own guests or not having her husband beside her. A trait worthy of the utmost admiration at best. At worst, she's the envy of every woman, the subject of every gossip in Luxport.
Welcome everyone.
And Mom said we could have been good friends. I can't picture myself mingling with the kind of guest she has, though I admit she does seem familiar now that I've seen her this close. Memories of sitting in a vanity not mine, being dressed in clothes too fancy for my taste, They flit briefly in my mind until her cheerful tone arises above the buzz of her enraptured audience again.
Please, make yourselves at home.
I wish I could share her enthusiasm, really. But being surrounded by all this extravagance, for the lack of a better term, merely makes me dread how the rest of the night might go. Also, knowing there might be some truth to what lies inside this place helps me drive the unease further by a notch. Ashton, on the other hand...
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
Do they have... Wait, what's the... Do they have someone actually parking people's cars for them? You can park your own car. You don't need a valet at your house. For someone who abhors the idea of gatherings like this, he already seems right at home, standing with an air too lackadaisical as he watches the valet drive off with his bloody car.
Can't you at least act with a bit more shame?
Becca, if I find a single scratch on Shirley, there will be hell to pay.
Those guys know what they're doing. They're handling cars worth more than your precious Shirley.
My disdain has likely shown beyond the tone of my voice, quite possibly in the form of a grimace. He chuckles, a rare moment where mirth and amusement dance across his features. Try as I might to pull up a stern glare, I can't help but join him instead. There's something in the lightness in it, how easy this kind of interaction falls into place, where we don't let feelings get too involved, in spite of being stuck in a situation we're not fond of. It brings back memories. However, the moment doesn't hold. All of a sudden, Ashton goes quiet.
Chief?
An odd expression flashes the momentary across, though he blinks away, before I can figure out why.
Ashton, what's...
Sorry, Becca, I just saw someone I need to catch up with. Longtime friend.
It doesn't help that he isn't even making an effort to spare a glance my way when he answers. Instead, they're focused at something at some point in the crowd. His gaze darting between people walking past until a small frown forms in his face.
Oh, wait, Ash! What about...
This won't be long. Be careful while I'm gone, okay?
I meet the smile he hastily throws my way with a frown on my face. What does he mean by that? But before I can ask, already he has turned his back from me and is walking away without a single explanation whatsoever. In some desperate effort, I try to catch up with him, if only to know what warranted this sudden departure and his odd warning at the end.
Hey, be careful! About what
The ghost! Only for my attempts to be interrupted by a muffled ring from my pocket. Mom's cheerful voice greets me as soon as I answer.
Yes, I'm at the party already, Mom. Yes, I'll say hi to her if I can.
The conversation itself doesn't last long. Just a simple hello, a reminder to enjoy the party, and send their regards to their old student. But when the call ends, I get to look up. Ashton's already heading inside. With a sigh and admittedly a little disappointment, I tuck my mobile back in my pocket and I follow after him.
So much for a date.
Even with the familiar company, this is somehow shaping up to be a terrible evening. The party hits full swing an hour later. With the host's opening remarks given, there's still no sign of her husband and the poor woman, and the guests promptly fed. The band shifts the melody to a livelier tune. Soon, laughter and rhythmic tapping of shoes fill the room, all in accordance to the lifting strains of the music. It seems fun, I admit. Fascinating at certain moments, the flurry of dancers making the music their own, almost with no care in the world. If it weren't so indisposed, I'd have joined the crowd for a song or two. There isn't a lack of invitations anyway, plenty of them in fact, with some asking more than once. It's only my stubborn refusal that prevents me from joining them. And I can't. A single nod and I can hear the dog barking. Oh my god. This is what happens when you stream in the afternoon. When most people stream at night for a reason. Oh my god. A single nod is all it'll take and the evening would have been far more enjoyable for me. But my pride and my own silly hopes, the thought of being seen with one of them by him curbs that, and as much as I hate to admit it. It's a hard truth to swallow, especially when the very person at the center of it makes denial difficult. Can't even spare me a minute of his attention or a single glance at me the whole evening. Eventually, Zachary might have spoken more words to me. The big guy's busy covering the event to boot. But at least he manages to slip in a conversation or two between takes, a small wave of his hands when he passes by. What's Ashton's excuse? He's been flitting in and out of sight the whole time. He's snooping. One moment he's hanging around a small group, and another he's hovering around the string band. Just a second ago, he's wolfing down some deviled eggs by the buffet table, a glass of wine in hand. The next thing I know, he's gone. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he'd only agree to come with me for another reason.
I swear, the next person who asks, I'm dancing the night away with. Ashton can go fuck himself.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think?
Her voice almost makes me jump, too focused on the gobshit wandering around the ballroom and my own annoyance to notice. If she's heard any of the profanities I mumbled, or she's taken notice of my discomfort, she makes no comment on it, merely greeting me in a smile when I turn my attention to her. Miss Hannah Wright gives off a whole different air when she's not speaking to an audience. Homely. Almost a bit too friendly for my liking. But I guess that comes with being raised in such an environment and having to deal with pompous, snooty people. Though I suppose nothing has really changed from years ago. I remember her carrying herself in the same manner during that one and only visit. Does she remember any of it? I won't be surprised if she doesn't. It has taken me a while. She probably met a lot of people like little Becky throughout the years. Might have already forgotten me or my parents. People like her thrive on connections after all. Nevertheless, I return her smile, awkward and stiff as it may be.
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
Oh, you're fine, dearie. It's only really the parvenus, those who climb, that come to these parties all dolled up. Quite the black-haired beauty, isn't he?
It takes me a while to realize who she's talking about. Until Ashton walks by again in closer proximity than any of the other times he's done so before. Excuse me, sorry. Needed to take a sip of water real quick. Still, without a look of acknowledgement our way, even though Miss Wright speaks loud enough to catch the attention of anyone within earshot.
Who, Ash?
You know, you really shouldn't have turned down those offers. If I wasn't married, I'd happily go dancing with those young men. But you said a name. Ash. That's the exquisite lad you've been looking at all this time. I don't know him, and I'm the one hosting this party. That must mean you know each other. Is he your boyfriend then? Because that would explain those rejections.
This isn't the first time someone has made that assumption. Almost every student I've had in the past did. My coworkers more often than not assume he is. A few of my neighbors also think we're an item. Not that Ashton has ever reacted to those. He's been quite indifferent about it, in fact. Still, the heat of a blush creeps up on my cheeks, denial already wanting it to happen so badly.
What? No, that's ridiculous. He isn't my boyfriend.
Such a violent reaction. A simple no would have sufficed. Many here would be happy to hear it.
And I haven't been looking at him.
I do my best to summon a straight face before her good cheer, it easily falters.
That's right. You've been staring. Quite heatedly, in fact. Although I'm not sure if you look like you want to kiss him or kill him.
It can be both.
It's more the latter currently.
Just don't go murdering him on my property.
Yeah, one ghost is enough.
I don't want to walk into a room and suddenly find a body there.
It's infectious in a way. No sooner I find myself enjoying our chat more than I've imagined myself. Although her attention briefly wavers at one point, she remains a good companion. Even more once I've mentioned who my parents are. Her face quickly lights up and fondness graces her face, despite the meeting from several years ago being a short one. But of course, there are some few things we can't really avoid talking about. After all, it's one of the few things I remember her asking me the moment she spotted little Becky in the room. Do you have a boyfriend? In retrospect, it was an odd thing to talk about as children when there are loads we could have started with.
Oh, I remember you. You were the cutest little thing with glasses. And when we met, you were having boy troubles with this lad called something with an A.
I believe I still have the same clothes she gave me, chosen all so I could impress him. And even back then, Ashton has always been denser than a rock, and that one attempt to get him to notice backfired spectacularly. Sure, he's keen, he's a detective for heaven's sakes, but feelings, more often than not, escape him.
What was it again? Aaron, Alan, Adele, Albert, Alexander, Andrew?
Which makes this whole talk all the more embarrassing. And the more names she lists off, the more my discomfort grows until my smile returns into a grimace. What will she think of me? Here she is, married to a man she most probably loves at that, while I'm still stuck in the same place, yearning for the same person.
Ashton! Ash! That man is that boy! The same one. Oh, goodness me, after all these years! I can see why, though. He's quite dashing.
You don't really need to announce it to everyone within earshot, you know? Keep it down.
I'm so sorry, but it really is cute.
She says that, but for a short moment, a hint of pity flickers in her eyes. I take that as a chance to change the subject before anything more can be said over the matter. I haven't even sorted these things out myself.
This is a nice party, Miss Wright.
Though, to be frank, I doubt she'll be so willing to pass this up. The topic has already captured her attention.
Please, Anna's fine. We're friends of a sort, aren't we? We must be friends, seeing as I know about your little infatuation, Becky. Don't you worry, dearie. You'll have your happy ending yet.
I'm not too concerned about that, am I? That's not what I'm looking for.
Oh? And what makes you think that? Doesn't everybody want their happy ending?
The idea of happy endings sounds like they're just for fairy tales. And they are, sorta. I don't think you can just sit around, trapped in some tower and hope for the best. If you love them, you have to fight for it, right? You're not just going to sit there and hope that everything will just fix itself on its own. Like everything, you have to work at it.
Hypocrisy, that's what this is. How dare I preach about something when that's exactly what I've been doing. And then, I go and act as if I'm entitled to any of it. That by virtue of us growing up together, he must return whatever I feel for him. That he's not allowed to look at another because I'm the one who has stayed by his side the longest. When, in the first place, Ashton has always been his own person. There's something I cannot force on him. I can only hold to these, take care of it, until the time comes that I can confess to him. Great, if he reciprocates, but if he can't, if he won't, selfish. I've been too selfish.
But what do I know?
I'm sure the daughter of the two greatest professors I've ever known is smart enough to know what she's talking about.
At one point, maybe I would have easily agreed to that. However, the past weeks have also seen changes in the way I view things. As nice as these things sound, it turns out whatever I'd previously known may not be true for other people or for myself. It is sobering in a way that's other things I might have said. It's sobering and almost funny how things I might have said with much certainty before now have doubts muddying each of them. But there will be time to mull about these later, because then a hush suddenly descends the room for a whole different issue rears. Especially when fucking Luke, strides into the now quiet ballroom, fashionably late, and oozing with the same pompous mien he always carries around with him.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Enjoying the party? I hope I'm not too late in welcoming you all to the Wright Mansion.
Before long, Hannah leaves my side to join him, and it doesn't take a genius to piece it all together.
Welcome, one and all, to our humble abode. Tonight, if you have yet to find yourself in your roles, you are our ladies and lords of the court of your king and queen, if you would excuse my presumptuousness. So, enjoy the feast that has been laid out for your senses, as we only allowed the best to be served. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone!
His attitude, the manner with which he carries himself around, his unfamiliarity with that part of the city. Of fucking course. I should have known. Although, I'm partly at fault here, the tabloids and gossip columns have never really been my thing. I should have also expected that wherever Luke fucking Wright is, some sort of drama will surely follow. He's the kind of person who revels in it, figures he'll find him on his own, even when he's not asking for it. Oh, yeah, there we go. Yep. It happens amidst a round of applause and hoots that people lagging behind the crowd gasp as they gather does not catch on, until the cheers turn into several scandalized gasps.
I am pregnant.
with your little bastard. You promised me you'll take responsibility.
Yeah, he's not gonna do that.
God damn it, Luke. I finally got you to talk to me after months of silence, and you do this to me.
Yep, she did do that. Yep. Oh, God. I needed some more water.
What do you mean you're pregnant with?
She said she's pregnant with your husband's baby.
Luke, is this true?
Maybe.
Lies and slander, woman! Security! Johans, take her out of here before she makes an even bigger fool of herself!
No, you do not do this to me. I was so ready to leave my stupid oaf of a husband. I told you to leave that damn wife of yours. Look at her. Does she look like she wants a baby?
Luke doesn't want a baby.
Does she look like she could take care of a baby?
Luke can't take care of a baby. The commotion doesn't go further, despite the drunk woman appearing like she has plenty more venom to spill. In a little while, security shows up, escorting her out, and apparently she's the chief inspector's wife too. Yikes. As if the whole thing can't get any more fucked up than it already is. What a mess. But the damage has been done, and beyond the repercussions this will bring, I'm more worried about Hannah. Maybe Luke too, in part that I've seen the man that hides behind his self-importance, and it is someone who cares for the person who stands beside him. No matter how questionable that is. Also, no anger is worse than that of a scorned woman. And Hannah, well, as refined and well-mannered as she is in front of their guests, I'm not sure if she'll be all too willing to tolerate this. Her party, her home, her husband, and that woman had just dared to walk all over it. Yet when I glance at her, there's only defeat, a weary slump on her shoulders, and a certain depth to her breathing. Like the fight has already been drained out of her long ago. I don't know how long since this has been going on. I don't know either of them well enough to judge for myself. I'm simply an outsider who happens to have some kind of connection to both of them. But the air of a person who wishes for respite, it's all too easy to see her in it as she quietly watches the commotion carry on around her. In a moment, before I can think it through, I'm pulling her to the side and waving Zachary over to us.
Becca, this is a real oh, hey, Miss Wright.
Hello, Zachary. I told you to call me Hannah. Did I not?
Yeah, you did.
Admittedly, this air of familiarity between them catches me off guard. I won't put it past Hannah, her standing in a society compels her to keep appearances, the be nice to everyone sort of thing, while Zachary's growing client base sometimes calls for rubbing elbows with the rich and famous. Although, from the way it appears, it seems that this goes beyond maintaining a facade or work. However, I wonder how this friendship came to be. I'd ask, but we're starting to attract some curious eyes. Most of them are probably searching for more gossip, something to add fuel to the fire. Thankfully, there's no need to explain it to Zachary. He's aware of the situation all too well.
So, this is what you called me for? We gonna get Hannah out of here?
That'd be great.
Soon, he's leading the three of us out of the ballroom. Anyone who dares speak or approach on our way, I shut out with a sharp glare. I'm gonna take a quick break, and then I'll be right back. And I'm back. In a few steps we're out, away from the commotion and the suffocating tension. I don't stay long with them, though. Even if I want to, Ashton's still somewhere in that crowd. I've got to go back for him at least. No matter how much of an idea that alone sends an unpleasant twinge in my stomach.
Hey, I gotta go back in there. Completely forgot my bag like an airhead, and I'll see if I can tag Ash on the way out. You'll be fine here, right, Hannah?
Not to worry, dearie. I'll just be right here.
Zach will be with you if you need anything.
Besides, it seems Zachary can handle this without another person helping out. For some reason, I've got this strange impression I might be intruding on something if I remain. Better to entrust this with someone she's comfortable with. And though it might seem a little inappropriate considering what's transpired, a smile worms its way into my lips as I leave. Good on them, I suppose? Oh, I gotta go. My cat's meowing for... Oops. I accidentally locked my cat out of my room. I let her in though. She's good now. Yes, Kitty, you can come and sit on my lap too. Chatter has exploded throughout the whole ballroom once I return. Worried murmurs and clicking of tongues and inappropriate gossip filters through the thick tension in the room. Most of them haven't even left the premises and they're already talking about it. Tomorrow, it'll just be on the news for sure in every local broadsheet and tabloid in Luxburn. No wonder Luke's knee deep into damage control. I don't know how much you can control this damage. I mean, the chief of police's wife just accused you of being the father of her baby. That's bad. With the scandalous woman gone, he has turned his attention on the media covering the event. Though, so far, he isn't faring well in the cleanup department.
Now, people, we all know the drill. I'm sure you're all itching to get a start on those articles.
Good thing Zachary isn't here. I can't imagine a man of his temperament dealing with someone like him.
But if I read one word, see one picture about this come morning, even a single shot of the bloody wine glass the harlot held, you will all lose more than your jobs.
Okay. Luke's diatribe goes on for a few more minutes, at which he excuses him out of the area. Yeah, Luke's done threatening people now. I don't think you can threaten them into silence on this one. There was a drunk, pregnant woman yelling at people. Like, they're not gonna keep quiet. There's a brief lull, a reluctant pause, before the place comes astir again, but shortly after the buzz returns. Dancers have once again taken the floor, and their excited talk begins anew. But I couldn't care less about any of this now. I'm simply standing in the middle of it. Simply standing in the middle of it gives me a headache. Where the shock has faded, I just feel bone tired. I've accomplished nothing of what I've come here for, and apparently Ashton's disappeared sometime during the commotion. I'm not sure what pisses me off more. That he ignored me the whole evening and might have just left without saying anything, or knowing he obviously has some other motive for being here. Can't he at least trust his own friends for that?
You didn't have to lie to me.
It's the last straw. No longer in the mood, I grab my bag and head out, more than ready to end the disastrous night as early as possible. As it turns out, the night isn't done with me yet. Because no sooner than the porter closed his door behind me, I find myself standing alone in the foyer with one Luke Wright. No sign of Hannah or Zachary. Just him and the agitated clicks his shoes makes while he treads around the empty room. Away from the media's prying eyes and the guests' judging stares, it's easy to glean how much this scandal has him shaken. Not to the point where he has utterly lost his composure, he appears to have mastered himself enough not to. But at an ample opening is there a nervous edge to show on the lines of his shoulders.
What do you know?
The man is not as tough as he makes himself out to be. Sure, I've seen this before, briefly in that 1 second in the hallway at school. It's a strange matter, however, to witness that out in the open. Behind the closed doors, this is the real Luke Wright. Although, maybe that's because he hasn't noticed my presence yet, busy as he is with his thinking. If he's aware, I doubt he'll be acting like this. His pride is one thing, he will always wear it with him. Even now, when I place a gentle hand on his shoulders, he whirls around to face me. There's a second-long moment of anger flashing across his features before it dissolves into confusion. He tucks it away quickly as he can, but it does nothing to change the impression I've built of him, the man in my head.
Daisy, must you be everywhere?
We've only met 3 times, Luke. Quit the dramatics. Besides, shouldn't you be aware of who gets invited to your party?
If I was, there wouldn't be any of that scene tonight. That munter wouldn't even get an inch within this property. I'd banner off Luxborn if I could.
He probably pawns everything off to the servants or Hana. Pompous, elitist douche.
Did you just come out here to lecture me about it? Because, Daisy, I can already feel one coming tomorrow. I don't need to hear one from you tonight.
You are a very unpleasant man.
That is an understatement.
So I've been told. Will that be all? If so, I suggest you go back and join every bloody goss in that room.
Not everything. As unpleasant and frustrating talking with this man is, he deserves the benefit of the doubt at least. The question and criticisms aren't lacking, of course. But right this instant, there's only one thing that comes to mind. You should be with your wife. You need to talk to your wife.
You know, brooding over here isn't going to fix this mess.
Again with the lecture.
Will you stop calling it that?
Very well, what should we call this then? A heart-to-heart? Please don't, I might puke. And just so you know, I don't want to talk about feelings. Ever.
This isn't one, all right? It's just a friendly concern. Bloody hell, can't you just take it for what it is?
He pauses at that. Suddenly he doesn't know what to do with his hands, and in the end he simply stuffs them back into his pockets and sulks. There probably aren't many people who tell him that. He's a difficult man to get along with after all. I honestly won't give him a second of my time if I didn't see a different side of him. Dealing with him requires more than patience. When the awkwardness passes, mostly coming from him, he merely glances away. But the tightness in his shoulders has erased when he speaks again. Despite his rather rude choice of words, none of it has venom in him.
Friendly concern, right. While we're at it, I should mention that Hana used to call that Viper friend. Now I think she might want to strangle the munter if she sees her again. After she's done with me, of course.
I doubt she's going to do anything like that.
What do you even know about this?
Oh, I know enough. You may look like a sleazy douche, and you still are, by the way.
It's almost comical how fast his face shifts from mild disdain to offended, but I don't let it distract me. These things need to be said, and he needs to hear them, even though they're coming from some meddling stranger.
But you have your few good moments. I might even say that you're a decent person, if I'm in the mood. Now go. If you really love her, you've got to try and fix this yourself.
Maybe tomorrow.
Luke.
Daisy, did you see her earlier? Was that the face of a wife who wants to have a chat with her cheating husband?
Well, maybe you should apologize for cheating on her and not do it anymore.
Oh, well, at least you admitted you did something wrong. Good for you. How about a star? Would you like a star to go with that good deed?
Rebecca continuing to be best girl.
Don't get used to it. Do you realize how awkward this is?
Oh, I do.
Before I've even thought about what to say, I've known there can only be 2 ways this can go. All things considered, it isn't as bad as I've assumed. However, there are still things my brand of encouragement can't fix. His marital problems first and foremost, his attitude follows right after. Concerns aside, I can't help with those. Those are things that only he can fix, and it's definitely not by standing around here bantering.
Don't worry, I was just about to leave. Feel free to continue with your brooding once I'm gone. I'm not going to tell anyone. Cross my heart.
You think this is funny, Daisy?
Yeah, a bit. Laughter is the only response I give him. With a slight wave of my hand, I end it right there and walk away. Although, I can't resist the urge to glance back before I leave, if only to have one last look at the man he really is. But the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it. Oh! Oh no. Looming over his shoulder, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. Yep! Oh god, the ghost is a yandere for him. Oh shit. Like the first time I'd step inside this place in search of Isabella, he was there too, wasn't he? That man, along with his wife and another person, Miss Bacallo? And that shadow. No, a woman now. Her, no longer a blur. Terror rushes through every vein in my body. The crippling sensation gripping every part of me while she stares at me, a glare filled nothing but hate and venom. It's like staring at the eyes of a woman I've unknowingly robbed of something precious. I try to say something, a warning, but before I can gather my wits and voice it out, someone shuts the door behind me. And as if to keep outsiders away from the secrets that this mansion possesses. The brush of fresh air against my cheeks does little to dampen the chill in my bones. But now the sensation, the fear and disquiet, it leaves whenever I see her. It's familiar enough for me. Already, it has made a home in my nerves. I don't even notice my trembling hands until I cross my arms across my chest. The cold from the tips of my fingers seeps through the thick material of my shirt. Neither of it helps bring together some semblance of coherent thought in my head. But I know I should.
Someone has to tell that douche.
Yeah, there's a ghost, and she wants you, and I don't know if she wants to kiss you or kill you, and it might be both. I start walking back before the fear can cripple me again. It's not wise. Returning, that is, especially after what happened. But Hannah's still an old friend, and Luke doesn't deserve what misfortune that letter might bring. I can't just leave those two in there. Isabella's right. She's real, and there's something she wants from everyone who has read that.
Becca, where'd you go off to? If we're done here, let's go.
My mistake. The second his voice cuts through the crisp air is that I've allowed my annoyance to get the better of me. Fuming, purpose forgotten, I whirl around and march towards him. And one accusation after another piles up on the tip of my tongue, ready to be hurled at any moment. There's no hesitation in holding me back when I fling it at him. That straight face keeps as I do so, and doesn't hold any temper to my anger either. It only makes me want to slap some more sense into him.
Shouldn't I be the one asking you that?
Where were you?
Becca, I've been waiting here the whole time. I told you I hate parties like...
And before that, where have you been the entire evening?
Right then and there, I might have forgotten him, but if he's shown some ounce of remorse... right then and there, I might have forgiven him if he'd shown some ounce of remorse for leaving me like that. Maybe he could have looked away, given a sign that my assumptions might have been right. He doesn't even need to put them into words. A single gesture of confirmation is all I need. Rather, what I get is the same impassive look. He does that whenever he can't disclose anything. He does that whenever he's lying. In the face of it, amidst the thick tension, a frustrated huff is the only thing I can summon.
Be that way. Fine. Suit yourself.
No more words. After everything I've seen and heard tonight, I'm already too exhausted for those. So without speaking any further, I simply walk past him and stomp over to his car. Although, before I can pull open the door, he calls out, one hand outstretched and a gentle weight on my shoulders.
Wait, Becca.
He pauses, his brows furrowing and his lips curving into a slight frown. I can almost see the gears turning in his head, and while he tries to piece together everything he wants to say. Before, perhaps, I might have waited patiently for those. He's not a man fond of using words to express himself. More often than not, any gesture and honesty only comes out as blunt, coarse, when forced. But today, for one reason or another, I simply can't summon that forbearance.
Ashton, if you're just going to waste my time again...
Becca, listen. I don't know how else...
That much is obvious. Why don't you just take the whole bloody night? Go on. I can wait until next year. Better yet, why don't you just keep it all to yourself like you always do? It's not like...
Rebecca, will you hear me out first?
The silence I can offer him, but whether or not I'll believe what he's about to say is still up for debate. A very long debate.
I honestly don't know how else to put this. I'm aware your parents have some kind of history with Hannah Wright, and somehow you're friends with her. But you should stay away from these people for now, especially the husband.
Who? Luke?
His expression deepens into a scowl at the mention of the name, but whatever opinion he has, he doesn't immediately voice. Still, something about it has greatly displeased him, evident in the stiff note his tone assumes.
Yeah, he's bad news.
Well, obviously. It's my turn to frown this time. What does he mean by that? Care to explain your reasons?
Care to explain your reasons?
I've not meant for it to sound as harsh as it does, but anger and frustration have never been a good match in me, particularly in nights like this. It's not surprising when Ashton jerks back as if I've struck him. For a fleeting moment, something akin to hurt darts across his features, his eyes narrowing and his hands closing tightly into a fist at his side. Then swiftly, he glances away, shifts his focus to the line of trees nearby, like an answer that can be gleaned from the dark expanse.
I'm really sorry, Becca.
Ashton, you have a very big problem with communication. What is it for? For the party? For the vague answers he continues to give? Does it include all those times before, the year's worth of it? I don't doubt its sincerity. However, at this moment, the forgiveness he's asking isn't something I'm all too willing to hand, furious as I am. It's frankly a wonder how I can keep myself from raising my voice at him.
We'll talk about this tomorrow, and you better have a proper answer for me by then.
There's a brief hesitation before I step away, a short moment of wanting to say more, of waiting if he has anything to add. He's only silent, eyes trained at the distance. It's the last glimpse I see of him before I climb inside his car. If the door closes with the same force of the anger I'm holding, it merely vanishes into the night unnoticed. He follows soon after, and shortly we're on our way back to the city. Yet, even with the city's bright lights welcoming us, the dense, somber air from the mansion still lingers. The moon is almost at its highest by the time we reach Salem Well. After our respective heads have cooled off, the atmosphere within the car remains rife and with unspoken tension. This isn't a problem so easily fixed with a few handshakes. Quite frankly, I don't know what will. Ashton himself has no idea what to do when he alights and dwaddles awkwardly in the middle of the car park, unsure. It almost seems like he's having an internal debate, whether he should say goodbye or mutter another apology. I could have driven him away purely out of spite the second I'd gotten off. Still, old habits die hard. It's late, and Ashton's flat is on the other side of the city. Irritation might still rear its head every time I look at him, but I'm not too cruel to put him up on another long drive, especially when it appears he hasn't gotten any rest.
You can borrow the couch.
I throw the keys in my flat his way before a protest forms on his lips. Although he catches with ease, his eyes with a wary expression shoots a puzzled glance my way.
You haven't been forgiven. We're still going to have that talk, believe me. But I'm not about to send you out on another drive looking like that. It's late. Go get some rest.
We're setting aside a lot of loose ends like this, but he appears to have accepted the reason, at least in the meantime. He does give me another questioning glance when I shove past him, pulling my mobile in the process.
Where are you going? I thought...
You go ahead upstairs. I need to contact Professor Andrew.
Is that the guy who knows about the ghosts?
Andrew? Why would you... Oh, no. Please.
The ghost is real, Ashton. The sooner you accept that, the sooner we can deal with it.
Is this that thing Isabella said this morning? Again? I already gave her my word, Becca. I'll look into this BRC crap. No need to drag the old guy into it.
He's a professional. Of course he's still skeptical. It makes one wonder if he's even seeing anything at all. Figures this curse will stay away from the scoffer. But this is just another loose end tonight that I can't just leave alone, Ashton's beliefs notwithstanding. It just so happens that it's one I delve into using means other than taking a look at the mansion itself.
Ashton, do you really think I still give a shite after that stunt you pulled tonight?
No, but this is...
I've spent so many years with him to know that this is about to turn into another argument. Before he can finish it, I cut him off with a firm raise of my hand.
Look, I don't care. There are weird things happening around here. And yes, it's Isabella's brand of weird. Ghostly voices, strange sounds, and a bloody woman sitting at the back of my car. You don't have to believe me. And I no longer have the patience to convince you, so just leave me be, Ashton.
He doesn't push it, growing quiet instead, although I know he has a whole case of it prepared in his head. But there's a reluctant shift in his movement when he steps away from our conversation. The sort of climb in the stairs where he turns to face me with an expression almost too conflicted.
Are you really sure?
What?
That there was something? That you've been, seeing things?
Yes, I'm very, very certain. Now go. And you better not break anything in there. The last time I let you stay over, it was that statuette Belle gave me. You haven't even replaced that one.
The last of my reprimand goes unheard and unanswered as he disappears behind the stairs. If things aren't as strained, he might have made a quip or two about it, followed by a light banter. Instead, for a long moment, I'm left staring after him. There's something in the way he asks that nags, coupled with his expression. The whole exchange just feels unsettling. One that doesn't have to fade even as I gather my thoughts and shift focus on another, even as I dial Professor Andrews' number. And that is when it clicks. During the long wait for the professor, one stray thought emerges from the unease. Ashton has not intended for his question to be a jibe. It's concern. For what, though? For my well-being? The letter's curse? The woman I mentioned? The answers for those will have to wait, however. Finally, the call connects and Professor Andrews' voice echoes from the receiver.
Professor Andrew?
Rebecca? It's late. What can I do for you?
I know, I'm sorry, but this is a bit urgent.
After all, this is a more pressing matter. Our lives might be at stake, and we're still in the dark.
Actually, I was wondering if I could ask you to do me a favor.
New day! Professor Andrew Clark has agreed to meet me 2 days later in front of Luckbourne's public library. He has other commitments, but being a longtime family friend has its perks, and I have my parents' connections to thank for that. Of course, I'm not the sort to impose on him often, but the situation is, well, it's not entirely bad, but it does require calling a few favors from friends like him. Without his signature, I won't be able to gain access to the library's restricted section. And I want to get more in-depth information on why the Immergard Mansion that is, not simply what they choose to show the general public. As much as I hate to admit it, there's always something people censor. Whatever it is, I won't ever find it in the general section. It has to be what they're keeping here, beyond the public eye. And the thought of that alone makes me antsy. Thankfully, I don't have to brood over it. The wait for the professor doesn't last long. He never did enjoy making people wait. Likewise, he dislikes people who are tardy. He arrives 5 minutes after I do, greeting me with a kind smile and a casual wave of his hand. I haven't seen him in so long, but appears he hasn't changed much. His familiar presence alone is enough for a fond smile to spread across my face.
Professor Andrew.
Rebecca, didn't I say long ago you can drop the professor?
You know I can't possibly do that. Even if I can, it feels disrespectful to call you by your name alone.
Both you and Ashton never listen to this old man. Kids these days.
All right, but just for today, since you're doing me a huge favor, Andrew.
I guess you simply can't have it all, even at this old age. But pleasantries aren't what we're here for, yes? You mentioned you needed a permit.
Yes, sir, if that's okay with you.
More than fine. Anything in pursuit of knowledge, as they say.
He hands me the permit without further prompting. Just like he promised, he's also written a recommendation after his signature. This is more than enough for me to get those files. I mutter a simple thanks before slipping it into my pocket. Although, when I look back up, his brows are furrowed, the very face of curiosity. Not surprising considering how vague I'd been during our little talk over the phone. Right then and there, I've decided to tell him if he ever asks, maybe not all of it, but stuff he needs to know. It's the least I can do to thank him. As expected, true to his inquisitive nature, he asks,
If you don't mind, though, I know you've always been an eager learner, but may I know what in the restricted section that piqued your curiosity?
It's the Immergard Mansion, sir.
He's quick to raise an eyebrow at that, and for a while I fear he'll take the slip of paper back. Is there something in what I said?
The ones they have out in the general isn't enough?
I'm, hoping for a more in-depth read, sir. More about the history and the people who once lived there. The general section doesn't have anything much on that.
Oh, I see. Well, you certainly aren't the first one to be enamored with that place. It doesn't shock me. The architecture is admirable, and the urban legends are something to talk about. Why, just this past week, I've got a few asking me about that. Imagine that.
I think enamored might be a little too much to describe our interest in it. But I have to agree. The mansion is beautiful, even with the renovations.
Oh, You've seen it.
I was there for a few hours to attend a housewarming party. The invitation was for my parents, but they couldn't make it. My mum used to work as a private tutor for the Evans. Hannah Wright?
Ah, I know of her. Her husband, too. Who doesn't?
Oh wow, he thinks Luke's a prick. You can see it all over his face.
Luxborn's most popular couple.
Something falls behind his eyes, the warmth in them suddenly gone, like he's reliving a painful, distant memory and seeing it play right in front of him. It disappears almost as soon as it surfaces, but that look has unsettled something in me.
Is something the matter?
Nothing much. But you know, you're already like a daughter to me. So if you could, do be careful with the friends you make.
Is this about the rights, sir?
Yeah, totally. Luke's trouble.
Just a friendly advice from an old man. Don't think much about it. Anyway, I have to leave now. Can't miss my weekly serving of bear claws. Say hi to your parents at the detective inspector for me, will you? I wish you luck with all that research.
I will. Thanks for this, Andrew.
Andrew gives my shoulder a light squeeze, the gesture a younger me has always appreciated, and quickly crosses the street after. I watch him until he disappears behind the door to a cafe, until the doubts swimming inside my head finds a moment to rest. Whatever his business is with the rights, it isn't anything I should concern myself about. But somehow, in the grand scheme of things, all of it feels oddly relevant. Though now, the how, though, I've yet to find out. And I'm hoping the library will give me the answers I want this time. On a gloomy Sunday morning, the library is especially empty. The second floor in particular. I've always considered the place to be a sanctuary, a respite away from the hubbub of the city. As a child, I grew up reading books there, spending hours here with to no end poring over the pages, living out fantasies in my head until my parents called me home. Now it feels nothing like it. The silence is smothering, suffocating. Even with how clean they've kept the microfiche, the what room? Okay, how the entire small of it lacks a speck of dust and clutter. Breathing is a struggle for air. Not far into my stay, I begin to long for the noise of outside, and perhaps a way to calm this unease. I started to hum a tune. Imagine that. Why, of all things, it has to be that silly nursery rhyme. I've not an inkling. It does its job, however, and it fills the lull with something less awkward, far less deafening, and that is enough for a distraction. I have business here. No time for silly daydreams, only important work to attend. Even if there's a possibility of it being fruitless, by some means, it still feels like I have to do it, if not for me, then for the people who have been affected by this, what do we even call this? A haunting? A Halloween prank gone wrong? A curse? If Isabella were here, what would she say? Will she panic? Will she be angry I only listen to her now? It all stems from that one moment at the movie house, doesn't it? We could have avoided this if we had only taken our warnings to heart. One stupid mistake is all it took to send our normal lives into a downward spiral. Frankly, I'm no longer sure if I'm angry at myself for it or at the universe for throwing us into this mess. But we can only make do with what we have, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Going here might not be the right decision, but it's a start.
Good start.
It doesn't take much time for me to find what I need. A microfiche of old newspapers, long kept in special storage cabinets at the end of the restricted section. The year it's the 1620s and beyond. Before the city of Luxborn even exists in the records, when the mansion has just been built, and Anselm is nothing more than a small sleepy hamlet near a river. A lot of pieces are missing, days, sometimes several consecutive weeks without any records remaining. Often it goes on for years. Troublesome, but as it is, I'm lucky enough to find anything at all considering how far I'm looking back. Can't be picky now. Can't waste time mulling over what record keepers of the old could have done to make this a breeze for me.
I can still work with this.
The faint whir of the microfiche machine keeps me company as I go beyond each slide, each image, hoping for something that goes beyond the local lore knows. There are snippets, little mention of the family that once settled into the house here and there. The usual singing of praises for the couple who brought up the place was a tiny settlement into a buzzing sound. Nothing substantial, something I didn't notice before. It continues like this for a good while, until I've come by the years after their deaths. The people of Anselm might have loved Lord William and Lady Elizabeth Emergard and mourned their passing and held them in high esteem for the years after, but it was their daughter that was remembered fondly by the townspeople. If her parents built this town, Lady Charlotte was the one who made it prosper. remarkable considering that it was a period of recovery from a bout of plague that killed half the town's population, including her parents. What's surprising, though, is apparently her time also marked more than superficial changes to the place. She moved things, changed laws, altered old customs and traditions. If they were done on a woman's whimsy, it doesn't say, but she seems capable of for more than that. The gist of it is that the town she rebuilt, it eventually grew to become Luxborn City, while the nearby Ansem village remained as it was, a relic of old. A frown swiftly forms on my face.
So, why is there a need to hide this?
One by one, I try to recall each lesson I've gone through, every book, paper, and journal I've read. None of those ever mentioned this. It's always the lord and lady of the house, their endearing child, always an afterthought to those anecdotes, the one who always took her life in the end. Never someone who restored a town from the brink of collapse or brought new ideas to it. Is it because she's a woman?
That pisses me off.
Granted, not everything's sunshine and rainbows, not all aspects of her can be considered admirable. But this is history. Some parts are bound to naturally delve into unpleasant territory, whether I like it or not. Witch hunts, for example, became common near the end of her life, which would have been completely unremarkable and might have gone to become a mere footnote in history if it didn't involve Lady Charlotte and the very slaves she saved. It's quite a stir, enough to leave almost a week's worth of clippings. The girl was eventually burned and condemned by an entire town, at the word of Lady Charlotte alone. But this doesn't have anything to do with the curse, does it? Unless the woman following us and the slave are the same person. A tale of revenge? How cliche. However, with the lack of accurate photographs, it's impossible to tell. Maybe if I squint, the illustration would start resembling her. But in my field, it doesn't work that way. It shouldn't work that way. I'll be the laughingstock of the community.
This isn't going anywhere.
Mentally exhausted, I take a careful step away from the screen, pressing a palm to my tired eyes. The lack of ample light in this area doesn't help. A headache already threatens to form at the back of my head, yet I'm nowhere near figuring things out. It's simply too much to take in all at once.
I should have asked for someone's help.
Now I'm at a dead end. I start gathering things around me and placing them back in their respective envelopes for storage, the motions no longer new after volunteering here a number of times. I didn't make much mess anyway, considering the lack of materials available to begin with. I'll have to look somewhere else. The where remains unknown, though. But just as I'm about to slip past the slides, something catches my attention. My hand pauses, the microfiche halfway through its protective sleeve. This is one of the few I've set aside without taking a careful look at it. It seems like a gossip column at first glance, but upon a closer look, I slide it back to the reader, gently turning the dials of it in search of a page. It takes some time, but once the image becomes clear, they say that they must have had this drawing commissioned for this announcement. I don't doubt it. The details are far more intricate. They're likely closer to how they might have appeared at the time. They're both recognizable this way, closer to those paintings I'd seen at the mansion. However, the man standing beside her, Edward Godfrey, according to the article that caught my attention previously. Her first cousin, and eventually her fiance. Freaking rich people. Maybe it's the posture, the manner in which he holds himself, or maybe it's the shape of his eyes, though I can't be too certain about it until I've gotten a better reference. Nevertheless, there is a resemblance. He looks eerily like... My head snaps up, glowering at whoever's running in the floor above. Any day, I'd march upstairs and reprimand whoever it is.
This is a library, for heaven's sake.
But now isn't the time. I've gotten what I've needed. Without wasting another minute, I hit the machine's print button for a copy of the page, and while my other hand moves to put everything back into storage. A ragged exhale escapes my lips. Relief, perhaps? Or maybe this is already exhaustion. Regardless, soon, I'm closing my eyes as I wait for the printer to finish, only to stave off the headache building from everything. Sometimes I'm even humming the same song again for comfort. Despite my doubts about this, despite the tension in my shoulders, this may be a small find, but at least I can start somewhere. We can start somewhere. There's a way out of this. I know it. The printer sputters to a halt. However, it isn't the sound of that makes my eyes snap open. A chilly brush of air behind my back. Brief enough for something sickening to suddenly lodge itself in my throat while I take in my surroundings. It's that suffocating sensation again. Creeping into every part of me, crawling under my skin. draining me little by little of any strength. From that day in the mansion, from that brief moment at the school, without a delay, I grab the papers and make a beeline for the door. Oh shit! She's on the ceiling! Why are you on the ceiling? Get down from there! Oh my god! My whole body freezes.
What are you doing, Miss Pink?
I hold my breath, not daring to make any noise. For a little while, only the sound of papers crumbling under my grasp fills the room. The excitement from earlier gone instantly, replaced by cold, seeping dread spreading throughout my limbs. More than the fear is the anger. It pains me to hear her using my own student's voice against me. More than once, I believed it was really her. She has no right.
Why don't you play with me?
Although she hasn't made a move, if there wasn't a wall behind me, I'd probably take a step back. Anything to put a distance between us, no matter how small, as long as I'm out of her reach. But I steel myself. Because I do fall back, turn away from her, I'll be left with no way out. I'm not dying here.
You think you scam me?
Miss Pink, don't be so rude. I'm waiting.
I'm not afraid of you, you spook. This is one Scotswoman. You aren't getting into an early grave without a fight.
Kick her ass, Becca!
Come at me.
Oh my god, she's really gonna fight the ghost! I expected she'll lunge, prove to me what a monster she is. Instead, all she gives me is a smile, twisted and gnarled. It's as if time has crawled to a stop at the sight of her. A split-second decision. And before I know it, my body shifts. Eyes closing in anticipation, grabbing whatever's solid enough on the nearby tail and hurling it at her. Throw the book at her, Becca! I don't bother looking if wherever I threw hit its mark. I run, as fast as my legs can carry me, despite my heart threatening to burst out of my chest. But in the maze of bookshelves, the whole place is almost void of people. Is there even a safe place that I can escape to? Oh my fucking god! We either head for the door, or we head upstairs. Head for the door! If there's one, it's out of this room, out of this place, and as far as anyone can get from her. If I can think about the rest of what I can do after I'm outside when there are other people I can ask for help. When she's not chasing after me like this. There's no hesitation in my steps as I race for the restricted section's door. I head downstairs, the barrel straight for the library's exit. Towards safety, in a desperate bid for my life, the library rules be damned. I can no longer hear her behind me, but I'm not taking any chances. A breath almost escapes me as I near the door. A little more. When out of nowhere, a library cart careens from a blind corner and slams into my side. My back hits the floor with a hard thud, the impact completely knocking the breath out of me. The copper tang of blood gradually spreads over my tongue as I fight to get my bearings back. I force myself to move, even with the excruciating pain coursing through my limbs. The exit's almost there, if only I can... But there's no moment's respite. Oh shit! The next thing I know, there's a heavy weight on top of me, cold diggets slide around my neck, tight like a vice, pressing, closing in, leaving me gasping for air. Through my blurred vision, I can only make out the hateful gleam, the spite in her eyes, as she looms over my body and her grip on my throat grows tighter. Desperation kicks in. My nails dig into her wrist as I struggle against her firm grip, trying to pry her fingers away.
Let go. Let me go.
We gotta fight her! Oh, keep the slider within the green bar by moving the mouse's arrows in that direction. Oh, no, we gotta, no! Fuck! Too strong. Her hold on me is too strong. My lungs begin to ache, burning with the lack of air, as growing pain worsens with every second I writhe under her punishing grip.
Somebody help me.
I tried, but I fucked up the minigame! Darkness starts to fill in the edges of my vision, and soon the world fades. Continue! We're not giving up on her! Okay, we just gotta stay. Moving the mouse in the arrow's directions. Just stay in the green, stay in the green, stay in the green. Okay, we got her. We're good. Kick her ass, Bex! My limbs begin moving on their own before I can fully register what I did in my brain and my lungs can recover. Behind me, she lets out a cry, sharp and thunderous against the empty walls of the place. Before the fear begins to her wails compare nothing to the relief washing over me when I finally make it out. Whew! We did it. We're good. My knees buckle as soon as my feet hit the pavement. It's surface cold and hard against my skin. I've only been there for a few hours, about 1 or 2 probably. I don't know anymore. It feels like an eternity all the same. My breathing hasn't slowed down yet, and I don't expect it to after going through that. I probably look the most undignified creature on a Sunday morning right now, out of breath, disheveled, slumped here with a bloodied lip and all. But at present, I simply can't bring myself to care, even with a few passerbys start to give me strange looks. I stare at me all you want, I don't give a single shit. I'm alive. I'm safe. This isn't the end yet, but I'm safe. And inside my bag is something that could get us out of this mess. Nothing definite yet. I don't want to get my hopes up, but there's still something. If Isabella is here, I'm sure she'll feel the same. She'll even be the first one who will put her faith on it. Wherever this will lead us to, it's a victory on its own. Now all that's left to do is find the others, the rest of us trapped in this bloody nightmare. Right on cue, as if to answer to my previous thought, my mobile lets out a beep, and to pick it up, simply hoping it'll be one of them. Only it's a voicemail that greets me. From Ashton. There's a pang of disappointment, of course, but it brings some reassurance that nothing's happened to at least one of them.
Hey, Becca, call me back when you're free. We need to talk. ASAP.
It ends right there, the message less than a minute long, curt and gives nothing away. I let it ease my worries regardless and do as he asks, because this too is another triumph for us. One less thing to worry about. And now it's Ashton's chapter. Okay, so we're going to stop here for today, and next week we'll play Ashton's chapter of the story. Until then, show's over.